Well, I tell you what, Godfather, how many weeks were you asking Shacker to give you some Frankenstein?
All I needed was Burkhardt back on the board. I get my wish comes true.
I really care about Shacker because he's so vital to the station.
But
He's a deviant. He
Oh,
won't
what?
listen to anything that you have to say, or when you offer up suggestions and you are a host of the program, you should be able to say, you know what, I want to hear some Frankenstein. He doesn't give it to you. He plays some type of weird, like, death metal. Burkhardt comes in. He's like, I take care of the Godfather, and boom, you get some Frankenstein.
Yeah, he dances to the beat of his own drummer. He does his own thing. That's okay. I respect that.
I did see Edgar Winter live in person at the
Get out.
Beatles concert. Yeah, I heard this song. I played it for you in studio, the live
Yeah.
version. It was fantastic. Ringo Starr All-Star Band.
Yeah.
And they played everything, and I had forgotten about this song until I saw him come out and start jamming it. I was like, whoa, this guy's wildly entertaining. Guitar, he's got the keyboards, he can do everything.
Yeah.
Well, we got a big show today. Coming up at 3:20, we have a huge announcement on the program. We're excited about this. So make sure that you set your timers for 18 minutes from now. We have a big
timers.
announcement to unload on the show.
Yeah, he's in studio too. It's an announcement with somebody in studio.
You weren't supposed to give that away, but I
No,
appreciate you
somebody's
saying
in
that.
studio.
No
It
one's in
makes it
studio.
more
We just
special.
have an announcement. Don't give away any more details.
It's more special.
No, it's not special. Shut
Oh,
your
it's not
mouth.
special.
Gosh.
Okay.
Can you shut the old man up for a second,
just so
Burkhardt?
you guys know, it's not special.
Gosh. Just
I have
be
turned
quiet.
I've manually turned his mic off. He's done.
Okay. The idea is to create mystery about what's going on. And when you start naming too many details, Godfather, the mystery goes away. So just ease up over there. I know you're excited, Godfather, but settle it down. Settle it down. Coming up at 4:20, I'm excited about this, and no one else will be, but I'm thrilled about it. Kenny Dillingham, former Oregon offensive coordinator, now head coach at Arizona State, he unloaded a little bit. Well, he was out of control over the weekend because Arizona State lost and their field goal kicker missed 2 kicks, which potentially could have put them in a position to win the game. And here's what he said on Saturday after they lost to Cincinnati 24-14.
So you would hope that you can make, a kick, one of those, but our kicking game's atrocious. So if you can kick and you're at Arizona State, email me, right? We're going to have kicking tryouts on Monday. So bring it on, kicking tryouts Monday. Let's go. Yeah, I'm dead serious. We're going to put it out on our social. We're going to have a kicking tryout on Monday. We got to find somebody who can make a field goal.
All right, someone that can make a field goal. Well, I've been following this guy for the last few weeks, big Sun Devil fan, Nolan Krinsky. He actually has been trying to walk on for quite some time now at ASU. Well, when the coach put out the plea that we need kickers, he was able to get in touch, and he's got a tryout tomorrow with ASU to be their field goal kicker.
Wow.
This guy kicks, he punts, and he holds. And I've seen videos. I showed you the videos. He does everything. He practices his holding. You saw a few of the punts. He can also kick field goals. So this guy could be a special teams help to a team that seriously needs it, because I've seen enough college football just this past weekend. I do not understand how these big-time college football programs in all of these big games can go out there on the field without a guy that they're confident can make a kick when it matters most. Oregon's included in that bunch. How does this happen? So many schools. Is it because they don't put resources into recruiting kickers
Probably.
and they rely on walk-ons?
Yeah.
With NIL money, I'd be going out trying to find myself the best freaking kicker I could find and paying big money. Crazy.
Well, it used to be that only the big-time programs had good kickers, and it may still be that. It might be reverting back to that. I think there's a lot of mediocre kickers because of the explosion of soccer. There are more young people growing up who can kick a ball now. And so you're seeing more people who can probably make an extra point in high school, but not as many who can extend out to 40 or 50 yards. By the way, this guy sounds really valuable. If he could teach himself how to hold and kick at the same time, that would really be something.
The best kicker in college right now, from what I can glean, is Tyler Loop. He plays at Arizona. He's got like the cannon leg. I mean, this guy can boom it from deep.
They say he can kick them 70 yards, right?
Yeah, he's an animal. Even he missed a field goal this past weekend against Colorado. So it's just they need to make kicking great again. And I'm tired of seeing these teams roll these guys out there who can't make kicks on a regular basis. I don't understand it, but I am all about Nolan getting his opportunity to go out there and shine.
Well, I think part of the problem with kickers who can't kick is that it encourages coaches to make dumb decisions about going for it on fourth and whatever. That's why they're not kicking field goals. They don't have any confidence in their kickers.
Well, is it that, or is it the analytics that tell you in a lot of those situations you should be going for it? Because you have these young offensive minds who are ultra aggressive.
Yeah, but I think part of the analytics is they're using percentages of field goals made and missed in the colleges, and it doesn't seem like those percentages are real good.
I wonder if Lanning was nervous when he put his kicker out there from like the 2-yard line
He
for
had to
that
be.
go-ahead kick against Ohio State,
Had to be.
as was everyone else in the stadium.
Yeah.
Burkhart, were you nervous when they rolled out the kicker against Ohio State for the chip shot?
I'm nervous when they roll out the kicker against anybody.
All
I'm
right.
nervous when they roll out the kicker at practice.
Yeah. See, he knows.
Well, they haven't had a lot of luck at Oregon with kickers, that's for sure.
Well, Oregon's number one now after what we saw over the
Yeah.
weekend with Texas going down to Georgia. Georgia just went into Texas and curb stomped him. It made me feel good all over, to be honest with you. So Oregon's number one, but I feel like this year more so than any other year with the expanded college football playoff, I just don't see the significance in being ranked number one or really the rankings right now. The key is if you're from a major conference, win your conference and get a bye week when you get to the playoffs so you don't have to play that extra game because it's going to add more games to your schedule. And with the wear and tear and the physicality of the game, it's going to put you at a major disadvantage. So how significant is the number one ranking in your mind?
I don't think it is. And in fact, I think it could be a little bit of a distraction for some athletes. I think you could tend to get just a little bit too full of yourself if you're the number one team in the country. And I think we've seen that at times where schools that aren't accustomed to being number one, they get a little carried away with themselves at the top.
Well, I think the best part or the best thing for Oregon right now, we went through and looked at the schedule again. I mean, they're in the absolute driver's seat right now for the college football playoff. There are two games I look at on their schedule, and you could pick out more. Maybe you see it differently. Normally, Michigan, I would think, would be a troubling spot, but their offense is so bad. It's just hard for me to see them competing with Oregon. Illinois is dangerous because they've already upset a couple of teams on the road. They just beat Michigan. They've got a good coach. But that game's at Autzen.
Mm-hmm.
And then I look at the game later in the year at Wisconsin as the potential game they could drop. They're playing better football. Luke Fickell's a good coach, and that's a tough place to play. Outside of that, there's not two losses on the regular season schedule for Oregon, which means they're going to be zipping right on into the Big Ten title game, and they'll face either Penn State or Ohio State. I mean, do you think it's even possible for Oregon to drop two games in conference with the schedule shaping up the way it is?
No, I don't see it. In fact, their only loss that I see is to somebody we don't expect them to lose to. It's just it happens that way sometimes. Yeah. It's like Alabama losing to Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
That's impossible to predict. Who would ever be stupid enough to predict that? But it happened, and that's the kind of thing that happens in college.
Yeah, so I think Oregon's going to get there, and then the key will be in a rematch with Ohio State or Penn State, just get that win, whatever it takes to win the Big Ten championship, and then you put yourself in a position where you get the bye. Mm-hmm. But even if they don't win the Big Ten title game, they're still going to get in as an at-large. I guess what I'm trying to say is that I just don't see how Oregon doesn't make the playoff now. They're in a great spot. It's great that they're number one and that their program has come from where it has. They've come a long way since the opening game against Idaho. When people were freaking out, they're not good, they're not going to be able to get it done. The offensive line, they can't run the football. Dylan Gabriel's not Bo Nix. Well, all of a sudden, they're number one in the country, and they've been able to consistently get better week to week to week. And, Purdue sucks, but Oregon was flawless in their execution in that game on Friday, and Dylan Gabriel was once again top-notch.
Yeah. They, I think, even if they don't win the conference title, they'll be seeded high enough to at least get a home game in the first round.
I agree.
Which is a win. I'm sorry. It's a win.
I agree. And honestly, from what I've seen around the country, I think there's only one team that Oregon cannot beat, and that would be Georgia. Because you think you're strong enough, you think you're sturdy enough, you think you've got the right athletes, and then you get up on the field against Georgia, and they're just at a different level. It's no disrespect to Oregon. I just respect the type of talent level that Kirby Smart has there in the trenches. And we saw it against Texas, who was supposed to have the best offensive line going into the game in the country. And then Georgia went out there and just obliterated them and destroyed Quinn Ewers, and the game was over.
Yeah.
But outside of that, whether it's Ohio State or it's Penn State or it's Texas, pick whatever team you want. I know that Oregon can compete with any of those teams. The only team that I think would be a near impossible mission would be Georgia. But their quarterback's not exactly playing at a high level, which does it levels the playing field a bit because
It does.
Carson Beck's been turning it over at an alarming rate. So, yeah, everything Oregon wants is right there in front of them. It's just a matter of going out and taking care of business. And I would not want to be Dan Lanning or any coach in that position trying to get young men focused week
Yeah.
to week to week on the task at hand. That's the challenge.
Yeah, and you got a lot of games to go where you have to keep them healthy too.
Yeah.
You
Health
lose,
matters.
Well, if you lose Dylan Gabriel along the way, I'm sorry. Like turn the lights off and go home. I mean, really. And I know they like their backup. They like more, but I'm sorry. That's too big a drop off there. It wouldn't happen for you.
No.
And that's, I mean, key linemen on both sides of the ball. You lose 2 or 3 of those. Look what happened to Oregon State. And I mean, their defense has just been decimated. And that's just bad luck sometimes. You just have bad luck and lose a bunch of people. That kills the season.
Yeah, you got to stay healthy. That's why it's an advantage when you're playing teams like Purdue. They rested a ton of guys, 17 players who did not participate in that game on Friday.
Yeah.
And you're able to get key rest to big-time players. And they're going to have more games like that on the schedule where they can probably get away with resting some of their key guys to make sure that in the biggest games, you have your horses out there ready to go to work. They're in a great spot right now. And it doesn't hurt that you have a quarterback that's playing as well as anyone in the country who is also a Heisman candidate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's the right formula for success. I mean, do you agree with my assessment on Georgia, or can Oregon compete with anyone?
Well, the Georgia game, Chad, they could beat them, but it has to be one of those impeccable performances where very few penalties, no turnovers, turn them over a couple times. Everything's got to go your way. They've got enough people to stay on the field with them. They wouldn't get blown out by Georgia, I do not think. But beating them is another story.
And that's the problem. Georgia, once they impose their will, they force you into mistakes.
Yeah.
They make you do things you don't want to do out there. Outside of that, they're done. They lost to Tennessee. Kalen DeBoer already on the hot seat in his first year at Alabama.
Yeah.
You lose to Vandy in Tennessee. That's not a good look. Not a good look at all. The question was floating around out there. If he knew then what he knows now, would he have left Washington to take that job at Bama? My guess would be yes, because, again, these coaches, these high-level competitors, they don't think like we do.
Yeah.
They want the biggest challenge, the biggest test, and you can't think of a bigger challenge or a pressure cooker than Alabama.
I still think he's going to be okay. I mean, just don't panic and fire him too soon. He'll get it going there. He's a great coach. I think.
His track record speaks for itself.
Yeah.
But you go into that conference, and you're taking on that type of competition, although the Vandy loss is troubling. But Tennessee's a darn good team, and we saw what the big issue was. Their defensive front is so fast and so powerful, they just kept putting pressure on Jalen Milroe, and they forced him into mistakes. And in that second half, they took control.
And I don't know that Milroe has played as well recently as we thought he would at the start of the season. I'm not so sure. And I'm also not so sure that Saban didn't know the right time to leave. He might have known just about the right time to take off.
Well, Jalen Milroe had a great first quarter against Georgia.
Yeah.
And then after that, he had a big pass late in the game. But after that, he had a horrendous performance that we saw against Vandy.
That's right.
They didn't get over the top in that one, struggled against South Carolina, and then they lose that game where he struggled on the road at Tennessee.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Bama's not at the top now. There are better teams out there. And then what in the world's happening with Indiana? On fire right now. A basketball school on fire.
Yeah. Yeah. No. And they got a little bit of swagger to them. I've been surprised. Their coach is he's come up from a lower level. James Madison brought a lot of players with him, and it's working for him so far.
All right, when we come back, big announcement here on the Rip City Drive. And don't forget tomorrow's Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday. Every Tuesday throughout the entire season, you get a chance to win tickets courtesy of Dwight and Chad and your Portland Trailblazers. Big announcement coming up next. And we'll talk to the walk-on hopeful Nolan Krinsky coming up at 4:20. All right, Godfather, are you a man of big announcements or surprises? Do you like surprises?
No, you don't either. Yes! You're not a surprise guy either. Are you?
Not at this stage of my life,
Yeah,
no.
that's what I thought.
When I was younger, I liked surprises, but as I've gotten older, it's like, just give it to me.
Yeah.
I don't need surprises. I don't need people hanging out behind a door looking to scare me and stuff.
Oh, yeah. Or surprise parties for your birthday.
Yeah, I don't need that either.
No.
And the problem is, I'm about to turn 50, so I'm concerned that next year there could be some type of shenanigans going on when it comes to my birthday.
Oh, it's already in the works.
You think so?
No, I'm kidding.
Did someone have a big surprise party for you when you turned 50?
They had a party, but it was not a surprise. Thank goodness. Good. At least I could invite the ones I wanted. Surprise parties. You end up with people there. It's like, who's this guy?
I didn't
Well,
invite you.
Yeah, it was like, oh, he's a friend of mine. Oh, well, okay, whatever.
Well, this is a pretty awesome day here at 620 Rip City Radio. This has been in the works for quite some time. We've been talking about this kind of stuff for what? Months, guys? Dwight,
Yeah.
Chris, months? 6 months? 8
Months.
months? It's been a long time coming, and finally we get a chance to announce it today. We welcome officially Sean Highkin of the Rose Garden Report to our station. He is now the official Trailblazers insider for 620 Rip City Radio. Welcome to the show, Sean.
It's good to be here. Good to be with you guys. I'm excited about this. Like you said, it's been a while in the works. I think January was the first time I heard anything about it. And then Chad, you and I went out to dinner in like April after the season ended. And so it's been a while, but I'm glad we're here.
Yeah, this is awesome. I'm really excited about that. So for people who don't know, I mean, tell us your background. Like you're Portland born and raised, right? You've been out here a long time, but you've been covering the NBA and the Trailblazers for quite some time. So what's your background exactly?
Yeah, over 10 years. And I've been all over the place. I was in Chicago for a while, actually, kind of at the beginning of my career, covering the Bulls for a while, kind of in the end of the Rose, Noah, Thibodeau years and the first of the Fred Hoiberg years, kind of up through the three alphas, the Jimmy Butler, Dwayne Wade, Rajon Rondo year. And, I wrote for USA Today early on, and then I was with Bleacher Report for a while. I was the Bulls beat writer at The Athletic when The Athletic was just a startup that was only in a couple of cities. And then came back here around 2017. So this will be my 8th year, I want to say, of being full-time around the Blazers. I was with Bleacher Report for 5 years, and this is the 3rd year that I'm doing the Rose Garden Report Substack, which, for people who are wondering, the Substack is not going anywhere. And if anything, I'm only going to be able to do more with it with this role with Rip City Radio.
That's pretty awesome. Dwight, you understand that type of grind, right? Hanging around, writing, covering teams, looking for an opportunity, continuing to get after it.
Yeah.
A lot of busy work that people don't know about or understand when you're coming up and trying to find your footing.
Yeah, covering a team, too, is really a difficult proposition, particularly in a league where you don't get the best of access. Anymore, you don't get to go to practice and watch. You don't get to talk to assistant coaches on a regular basis after practice the way you'd want, get to know people. They're just not as accessible as they used. I was lucky, Chad. I came aboard. I didn't miss a Blazer practice the whole time Jack Ramsey was in his final 3 years with the Blazers. The whole Rick Adelman era. Saw every practice. It's a grind, and it's not great for somebody with a family, but it's what you had to do in those days. But, Sean, I want to ask you a little bit about your Portland upbringing. Where did you go to high school and college and all that stuff?
I went to Grant. I was class of '08, and then I went to U of O.
Oh, gosh, same high school as Aaron Fentress. Got to be good if he's a Grantonian.
How'd you enjoy U of O?
It was great.
So how did it work for you? What age were you when you knew you wanted to pursue sports? Was that a young age, or did it come later?
I think it was really in college that I really decided to, because this was when, like, this was like, so my freshman year of college was 2008. So this would have been that time in the history of the internet and like content on the internet that like it was possible to, get if you're a college student, get an unpaid gig writing for one of the like SB Nation sites, or in my case, True Hoop Network, which was the ESPN equivalent of it at the time. That
Henry Abbott.
Henry Abbott, which doesn't exist anymore. They kind of went away from that model, but there was just a huge pipeline of people who, here, locally, Ben Golliver got his start writing for Blazers Edge. He's the national NBA writer at the Washington Post now. There's so many others that you can name that kind of got their start in that pipeline. And so I kind of did that and was basically just kind of was able to get my foot in that door at like the tail end of when that was a legitimate career path. Cause like Dwight, back when you were first coming up, in newspapers, the path for, if you want to be a sports writer was you get a job in a small market covering high schools, and then you hopefully, move up to a little bit bigger market and maybe start covering colleges, and then you get a pro beat, and then you maybe get moved to a columnist or a national gig or something. That path doesn't, for pretty much my entire adult life, that path for the most part hasn't really existed anymore. My version of that path, which was you start blogging when you're in college and kind of do that like unpaid thing and hope, your stuff is good enough that somebody notices you, and then you get picked up by one of these national outlets back when they were still like hiring and that was a whole thing. Now I'm not even sure what I would tell people now for like how you should get into the business.
Tell them to try something else. I think that's what I've been telling them.
If people want to do it badly enough, they'll find a way to do it. That's something that I've learned. But
did you major in journalism or like me, something else?
Political science.
Yeah.
I was told like when I was going into college, don't major in journalism because you can go into journalism without a journalism degree.
Exactly.
But if you get a journalism degree and you don't go into journalism, like it's pretty tough to like translate that into something else.
That makes a lot of sense. Sean Highkin, Rose Garden Report, now the official Trailblazers insider for 620 Rip City Radio, which is pretty awesome. In regards to the station work, this is going to be great because you'll be contributing on X with your thoughts like you normally are. You'll be making videos before and after every game that will go to social media. You'll be contributing to our shows in the mornings with Justin, in the afternoons with Dwight and I. You'll be working with Chris, doing some pre- and post-game stuff. You'll be a part of Courtside Mondays on occasion. Like, you're going to be across the network. So the good thing is that this will be your one-stop place for all the Trailblazers information, and everything you continue to write on Substack with Rose Garden Report will continue.
Yeah,
we get everything.
It's a good setup too, because when I first started doing the Substack, which again, we're going into my third season of doing that full time, I did a podcast also that went along with it. And I kind of haven't done that for the last little while because, I had a few different deals with different, podcast networks that fell through for one reason or another. And then I kind of started, doing it by myself. And then it got to the point where like the amount of work that I was putting in on that, doing that part of it completely by myself wasn't translating into the kind of return that you want to see on that. And so I've always kind of kept in the back of my mind, like I want to get back into doing, something in like whether it be, podcast, radio, some sort of like the audio version of what I do. And so this is like a perfect opportunity to, have all that stuff in one place working with people, not just the two of you, Justin, Chris, who we mentioned, Burkhardt, who's been a friend of mine for a long time. Like it's a good group, and it's going to be good to kind of have that support and have all of this kind of in one place. And like I said earlier, the Substack is going to be untouched, going to be unchanged. That's going to be exactly as it's been.
Well, we got some basketball questions for you since you're in here. The starting lineup that we saw against Utah on Friday, it was Ant and Tamani Kamara in the backcourt. We had Klingon at center because Ayton was out for rest, and then you had Grant with Avia at the forward spots. Can we assume that that's going to be the starting lineup we're going to see on Wednesday against the Warriors, except for Klingon? When Ayton is back, he'll start, and then we're going to see Tamani with Ant in the backcourt? Because that's what it seems like or feels like.
If I had to guess, I think that's the way that they go. We'll find out tonight or tomorrow when we get to talk to Chauncey about it after practices or whatever else. But if I had to guess, I think the opening night starting lineup is going to be Anthony Simons, Tamani Kamara, Denny Avdia, Jeremy Grant, DeAndre Ayton. And, I mean, their thing the whole time, for not just this year, but since this regime, the Joe Cronin, Chauncey Billups, like since this regime has kind of been here, their message to players at the start of every camp is whether, whatever your status is, whether you're a rookie or one of the veterans, whatever, come in and earn your spot, and you'll get a spot if you earn it. That's why, like Chauncey, for example, he didn't go into Shaedon Sharpe's rookie season. They didn't go into that thinking he was going to play a lot, but then he had a really good training camp at, his first year coming into the league. And so Chauncey gave him minutes. And I think when you look at the preseason, the 4 games that they played, I think Tamani Kamara, you could make a really strong argument, has been their best player in preseason. And so it would be pretty hard, even though Denny is kind of penciled in as the starting 3, Jeremy, DA obviously have to be in the starting lineup. I think it's pretty hard to make a case that Tamani shouldn't be in the starting lineup, and I think you're going to see that reflected.
Do you think that's his permanent position in the NBA as a 2-guard?
He can play 2 through 4, and I think just with the way that this roster is kind of constructed right now, like you got a couple of guys, Scoot and Ant are kind of smaller guards. So those guys are going to be at the 1, maybe the 2, depending on certain lineups. But so many of these other guys, whether it be Tumani, Denny, Chris Murray, Rayon Rupert, Matisse Thybulle when he's back healthy, Shaden, like those guys can play, 2, 3, some of them in, the 4 in some cases with like Jeremy and Tumani. Like it's all pretty interchangeable. And I think this is the way that they've wanted to build the roster kind of for a couple of years. And it's just a matter of, they've been kind of going through the process of getting, since they, traded Dame last summer and kind of hit the reset button on the roster. They're trying to kind of build up a base of, guys that once they get whoever their number one, franchise guy is, whether that's, Cooper Flagg next year if they win the lottery or somebody that they trade for in the future, whatever the case may be, they want to have guys in place that once that guy comes in, somebody like a Tumani Kamara or, a Denny Avdia or Donovan Clingan can be supporting guys that you can just plug in right there and they're going to be closer to being back in the playoffs than maybe, a team at the start of the rebuild would normally be.
Right. So what impact would it have, do you expect, on Scoot Henderson not to start?
Well, I think it just, I mean, it's what I said kind of about him or about Chauncey saying, they need to, whoever is going to earn their spot is going to earn their spot. If Scoot Henderson had come out in preseason and just destroyed and just dominated and made it so you can't take him out of the starting lineup, then he would be in the starting lineup. And I don't think he's done. I mean, he's been up and down. He's been better in the last few preseason games than he was at the start of the preseason in the Clippers game in Seattle, which was pretty rough. He's been better since then. He's had some moments, but when you look at who's had a better preseason between him and Tumani, I don't think you can make any argument that it hasn't been Tumani, and so that's going to be who gets the starting spot.
What does that mean for Shaden Sharp when he's healthy and ready to come back?
That is a good question. That's above my pay grade. That's for Chauncey to figure out. But yeah, I mean, Shaden's a guy that, and it would have been interesting if Shaden had, if he hadn't had the shoulder thing and had been able to have a full training camp and be involved in preseason. And, they would have gotten to see him in some of these combinations with some of these guys, how this rotation would have shaken out. But yeah, because I mean, you look at it, and Shaden's not really a 1. So I think Simons kind of has that starting spot on lock. And, if you look at the way they played in the preseason, I don't see Tumani being taken out of the starting lineup. I don't see Denny Avdia being taken out of the starting lineup because he looked really good in the last couple of preseason games. He looked pretty much exactly like they thought he would when they brought him in and kind of doing exactly what they thought he was going to do. So I don't know. Who do you take out? Maybe Scoot and Shaden come off the bench for at least a little bit or until they make some sort of trade to, with somebody else to, maybe, let's say maybe they trade Jeremy Grant at some point at the trade deadline. This is like getting ahead of ourselves, but let's say he's traded at some point. Maybe you move Tumani back to the 4, or you play him at the 3 and Denny at the 4, and then that opens up a spot for Shaden. Like this stuff is going to get sorted out in some of those lineup decisions.
What's the key been, Sean, for Kamari's improvement? What has he done to make that next step?
He's just gotten a lot more consistent on the offensive end. He's gotten stronger, so he's able to go to the basket more. He's been getting to the free throw line more. The shooting, I think it's gotten more consistent. I think it still has a level to get to. Like if long term, if he can make himself into a 36, 37, 38% 3-point shooter in addition to what he does on the defensive end, I think that's a really, really high-level role player. And I think he's going to be able to keep making an impact just because of how valuable he is defensively. But he's just gotten stronger. I think he's just kind of, he's been in the league longer. Now he's going into his second year. He's not a rookie anymore. I think he has a better sense of what he is and what he isn't and doing, is playing within what he's able to do and figuring out how to make an impact that way.
It's great. Sean Highkin here in the studio. How would you define a successful season for the Trailblazers?
You want their important guys to stay healthy enough, and by the year, they're important guys. I'm talking about Scoot, Shaden, Clingan, Tumani, Denny Avdia. The young guys that we're talking about as far as like the guys they may or may not be building around long term. You want to see them healthy enough and able to play together long enough that okay, this guy is somebody that we want to keep long term. This guy is maybe somebody that we aren't, isn't going to be a part of our plans. You want to have enough to have answers on those guys while also losing enough games to be in the lottery to the point where they have a chance to get Cooper Flagg.
That's kind of a tricky proposition, isn't it? I mean, We all know that they'd love to be in the lottery this time around, this coming draft. A lot of teams want to be, it appears. And what about that balancing act between trying to do that and then trying to win games, trying to let these players develop in some sort of a winning atmosphere rather than what we've seen in the last couple of years?
I don't think they have to worry about accidentally winning too many games because you look at you said, to your point, Dwight, there are a lot of teams that are going after Cooper Flag and going after, one of these high lottery picks. Most of those teams are in the East. You look at, Washington, Detroit, Brooklyn. I guess you can throw Toronto in there. In the West, it's these guys and to a lesser extent, Utah. Everybody else is, at least as of right now, everybody else besides those two teams. And even right now, Utah, I think, is going into the season thinking they can maybe try to make a run at the play-in. I don't think that's going to happen. I think closer to the deadline, Danny Ainge is going to realize what's going on and make some trades and kind of get back towards the bottom. But there are 13 teams in the West that are going into the season thinking their goal is either, play in or playoffs. Like San Antonio is one of the worst teams in the league last year. They, if Victor Wembanyama plays 60 games, they're not going to have a worse record than the Blazers. Houston's trying to go for the playoffs. New Orleans, you just go down the line. All of these teams are trying to be competitive and trying to win and don't have the same goal as Portland and Utah. And those are, since they're in the West, those are the teams that they're going to be playing the most. So I don't think you have to worry about them accidentally winning too many games and not having a good enough lottery position.
One final question for you. How do you see the West shaking out? Who's the team to beat?
That is a really good question. I think on paper, just based on, health and trajectory, it would be Oklahoma City. And now it'll be interesting to see how, with the Isaiah Hartenstein injury, that, he's going to be out for the first part of the season. And that was, their big offseason acquisition. See how that goes. But, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is an MVP candidate, and Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams are only getting better. They have a lot, the Alex Caruso pickup that over the summer was big. And then, you've got Minnesota. They traded Towns. Obviously, from a talent standpoint, they got worse, but from a fit standpoint, I think what Dante DiVincenzo is gonna bring, I think that's interesting. I think you can't fully write off Denver just because they have the best player in the league still in Jokic. But beyond that, it's like there's so many teams that you can just if you want to tell me like New Orleans is a top 4 team, I believe it. You want to tell me they're a play-in team, I would believe it. And then Dallas just made the finals and. They got Klay Thompson. We'll see how much he has left after, the way his time with the Warriors ended. But there's so many teams. I think I'd probably tentatively have that the top 2, Oklahoma City, Minnesota, and then probably Denver. But this is my whole thing. Like all these other teams are going to be fighting it out, and the Blazers are going to be very happy to take some of these losses to pile up their ping pong balls.
It's a wide open conference, Godfather.
Wide open conference for sure. Yes.
I haven't seen it like that.
Even Houston's going to be better than it was
and
last
they just paid. I don't know if you saw this, but they just had the deadline for the rookie extensions for the third-year guys, and they just gave big new deals to Jalen Green and Alperen Şengün. So they feel like we've got our guys. This is something we're trying to build. Ime Udoka kind of turned it around his first year there. So they're going to try to go after the play-in. That's a team that, has in the past been very high in the lottery. They're trying to not be there. And I think that's where, in an ideal world, the Blazers see themselves a year from now. I think this year, everybody kind of knows what this is going to be, and their record is going to be similar to what it was last year. But I think they would like this to be the last year that they're doing this.
All right, Sean Highkin, he is our official Trailblazers insider for 620 Rip City Radio. Yes! It starts today. And Sean, we're just all looking forward to getting a chance to work with you and enjoy the basketball season. This is awesome, man. What a day. Thank you.
It's great. Yeah, I'm excited about it, too. Good to be with you guys.
All right, we'll keep things rolling. I got some questions for the Godfather coming up next. Don't forget tomorrow, Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday, and Sean Highkin, Rose Garden Report. Check out rosegardenreport.com. You can follow him on X. At Highkin. He is our Trailblazers insider. More of the Rip City Drive when we continue. All right, Godfather. We're going to get back to the football coming up at 4. We're going to hear from Mike Tomlin and Aaron Rodgers. What a
good.
Sunday night football game last night.
Yeah.
And maybe Mike Tomlin knows a thing or two about his football team with his quarterback decision.
Yeah, I think he probably has a pretty good feel for that team of his. He's been there a few years now.
Gosh, Mike Tomlin's pretty cool. I love that guy. All right, the WNBA. We're going to talk about this for a few minutes because I'm fascinated by it. And we're going to take a different angle than what most people are. The WNBA players have chose to opt out of their CBA because they want to renegotiate. They're looking for more money.
CBA meaning collective bargaining agreement. for
That's
people
correct.
who-
And for NBA players, we've seen them decide to step out. And sometimes the owners have locked them out. Sometimes players go on strike. This happens. Now, I know a lot of people out there are like, wait a second. The league lost $40 million. What are they trying to bargain for? But I don't want to take that angle on whether or not the players deserve more money. If you were on the side of the WNBA and you were with their union, how would you go and try to make a case for a league that lost $40 million that, hey, our players deserve more money and they're not being paid fairly based on what they bring to the league? How would you
Okay.
do it?
Well, all right. This is how I'd start. Okay. You're telling me you lost $40 million. I got 2 words for you. Prove it. Open your books. I want to see your books. A lot of these guys own an NBA team and a WNBA team. And the guys who own both, they're getting a little impatient with the WNBA and losing money, which I wouldn't like to lose money either. I wouldn't blame them for that. I would also want to know, though, if they're cooking the books a little bit to make it look like they're losing more money on their WNBA than they actually are. That would be my first step. Anytime you're going to collective bargain, you got to know what's real on both sides. I'd like to see their books.
So, in other words, what owners are doing, they've got an NBA team and a WNBA team. They could be using the WNBA team as kind of a tax write-off.
That's a dumping ground there. You could dump a lot of expenses there, and no one's going to look twice.
Yeah. And it makes sense. As soon as you mentioned it to me before the show, I'm like, you're absolutely right. Because I do believe 100% that NBA owners who are money-grubbing whores would do whatever they could to hide money somewhere else to avoid paying taxes. That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah. Now that you mention it, taxes are that's a pretty good idea there.
Especially when you make the type of money that they do, right? They're always looking for any type of loophole or anything they can use to show a bigger loss than what is actually the case.
Yeah. Yeah, there's all kinds of things you can do in sports. You can even depreciate players, I think, or at least you used to be able to. I don't know if they've changed that law. But you could do a lot of things tax-wise, and I'm sure they've explored every single one of them. The other thing I do, Chad, is I would try to play hardball and say, hey, look, here's our new TV contracts. Here's all the money coming in. We want more, and we're going to stay out till we get it. And that will pretty much derail whatever momentum this league might have had financially.
Don't you think that for the players now, with the emergence of Caitlin Clark, who's now a WNBA player, it helps their cause? Because people want to watch her. They want to see her.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And if she's willing to walk out, step out with the rest of them, that puts a little more urgency on the league to get things done.
Yeah, and she would. I think, you got to get your Players Association together, and that's what's really important. You got to keep, number one, the stars all have to be on the same page as the rank and file members. In other words, the everyday people who come and go through the league, because there's more on the line for them. Look, the stars are going to make their money, just like in the NBA. They're going to get paid, but you got to get them to step out on behalf of those minimum salary players and help them out.
Exactly. And that's really what the key has been. The hard part is when it comes to the NFL or even the NBA players, anytime they go into a negotiating window with the owners, they normally get hammered because when the game checks stop flowing in, the players who are at the bottom of the scale and don't make much money, they can't afford to go on for very long before they're in dire straits.
Yeah, their career arc is very short.
Yes.
And if they sit out a year or two, that might be their whole career.
Yeah, LeBron James or pick any superstar that's making millions of dollars, they can afford to sit out for an extended period of time, but the lesser guys cannot. The problem I have when it comes to the whole WNBA discussion is, everyone talks about equity-based. What people have to understand that the NBA players, they make as much money as they do because they're getting a percentage of the league profits.
Mhm.
It's a 50-50 split, isn't it? Or somewhere close to that?
Yeah, it's right around 50-50. Yeah.
Yeah.
51-49. Yeah.
So when you're talking about a league that makes billions of dollars and you've got a split of the revenues, you're going to have those players who make an extraordinary number of dollars because there's more money to flow around.
Mhm.
Same thing in the NFL, although to a lesser degree, NHL, all these sports leagues where they're generating a profit. The hardest part is that when you have a league that lost $40 million, if that is the case, it's harder to negotiate from that type of position.
So what you're saying is you can't get the players to take half the losses.
Yeah.
Like
They don't want that.
They want half the profits, but they don't want to take half the losses.
Exactly.
That's real equity there.
But the more I think about it, you're right. And how many of those owners are going to want to open up their books for
Not many.
further scrutiny?
No, nobody wants to open books. I don't want to open my books, okay?
I don't want anyone to go through any of my stuff with a fine-tooth comb.
That's exactly right.
I can't imagine being a billionaire and having, some crony going through my books like, hey, what's this all
Yeah.
about? Yeah, don't worry about that.
That's between you and the tax man. Yeah,
That's tough.
it is.
Oh, my goodness.
But that's where you start, though, Chad. You got to know that. You got to see their books.
But is now the right time for them to do this?
I
Maybe now so more than ever?
Well, I think from their point of view, it is the right time to strike because it does seem at its popularity peak. Now, it could get even higher. My guess, though, Caitlin Clark is a phenomenon, and I think it might just kind of peak with that for a while. You might see another jump later, but for now, I don't see anybody else coming up that's going to change that too much.
All right, when we come back on the Rip City Drive, we're going to hear from Mike Tomlin, who might be a pretty good coach. We know what Aaron Rodgers likes to eat mid-game to keep his energy going.
No, Chad. No. You can get on that Facebook or that YouTube stream and show them what he eats.
No, I'm okay.
Okay.
I did see a post. If McAfee doesn't ask him about this, he's a fraud.
I know.
It's pretty disgusting. Maybe we won't get to that. But Aaron Rodgers, of course, he always finds someone to blame for the Jets' deficiencies, doesn't
Yeah, that's for sure.
he? All right, we'll get to that. A lot of football to get to. You got the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. And congratulations to Sean Hyken. He is now the official Trailblazers insider for 620 Rip City Radio. The opener is coming up on Wednesday. Burkhart will have game day at 5, tip-off at 7. It's all presented by Coors Light. There's going to be a special T-shirt giveaway courtesy of Moda Health. You can get tickets for the opener against the Warriors right now at Trailblazers.com. All right, what's going on, my friends? It's now 4 o'clock. The Trailblazers can open up their season Wednesday night. The Golden State Warriors are in town. Tip at 7. Chris Burkhardt will have game day starting at 5 live from Moda Center. Tickets are still available. You can head over to trailblazers.com. They're going to have a sweet Rip City t-shirt giveaway courtesy of Moda Health. And tomorrow, Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday, and every Tuesday throughout the entire season. All you have to do is listen to Dwight and Chad for your chance to win. We had our big announcement. Sean Highkin of Rose Garden Report is officially the Trailblazers insider for 620 Rip City Radio. Bad news for the 49ers. After losing to the Chiefs, they have announced that Brandon Ayuk is done for the season with a torn ACL. And we got a doubleheader on Monday Night Football at 5:15. The Ravens are down in Tampa to take on the Bucs. Baltimore favored by 4.5 at 6. The Chargers are down in Zona to meet the Cardinals. LA favored by 1. That's on ESPN+. All right, coming up in 20 minutes, we're going to talk with Nolan Krinsky, who is going to be trying out at ASU after Kenny Dillingham went crazy after the game on Saturday and decided to hold open tryouts after 2 more missed kicks, which would have put them in a position to potentially win the game and make it a one-score game. So we're going to talk with him. And there's such an art to kicking, Godfather. I'm anxious to talk with him about his experience in high school. You mentioned something that they care about big time now is your range.
Yeah.
Kickers have to have a specific range because they want guys who can bomb it.
Yep.
What's he better at, punting or kicking? And what are the nerves like when you go into a tryout like that?
Whew.
Big time.
Imagine. Yeah, there's a lot at stake there.
Competition. So we'll talk with Nolan. I was able to reach out and get a hold of him on social media last night. I went through all these different channels to get a hold of him, and everything wants like some type of membership for you to send like a DM or something like that. So finally, I just sent out a tweet. I said, here's my phone number. I want you on my show. Contact me. And I got a text message from him. So there you go. If you make your number public, good things can happen. I'm just saying.
You don't even know for sure that it's him, right? Because anybody could have pulled that number off and decided to impersonate that guy.
Well, I did a cross-check on Google. So I think I matched up the proper number with the proper name. So I think we're good. Plus, he answered some specifics about ASU and some details that I think only he would know. So I was impressed. But you're right. It could be an imposter. It could be my boy Steve, for all I know, just trying to pull a fast one on me.
I was thinking of that. It would be a good one.
It would be a really good one. You get on here and you're like, yeah, it's going to be great tomorrow.
I got breaking NBA news. Willie Cauley-Stein, which I know you were following his career closely, he's going to sign with the Nanjing Monkey Kings of the China League.
Huh.
I think a guy grows up dreaming someday about playing for the Monkey Kings.
How much money do they get?
Doesn't say. They pay pretty well over there, though, I think.
That's what I'm saying. If the price is right, I'll play for any
play
team,
for the
no matter
Monkey
what they're
Kings?
named. Absolutely. What do I care? All you and I do is monkey around in here all day long
That's
anyways.
true. We're all ready for that place.
Gosh.
The Monkey Kings.
Yeah, I would
Be
play for
interesting
them.
to know what they sell at the concession stands.
Well, we've seen some guys go overseas, like Stephon Marbury. You know, some NBA players have head overseas. They become superstars.
Yes. Billy Ray Bates did that for a while. Yeah. He was in the Philippines, I think.
And go where you're loved.
Yeah.
That's what I need to do. I need to find a market somewhere overseas where they're like, hey, this Chad guy's okay radio.
Try somebody who doesn't speak or understand English. That might work really well.
I don't really speak or understand English either, so I'd fit right in there. All right. How did you think Russ looked last night in his Steeler debut? And keep in mind, he didn't play all year, and he missed the last couple of games of last season for Denver when he got benched by Sean Payton. Overall, what did you think about the performance last night against the Jets?
Well, he admitted a slow start, and that's fine. Who would not have expected a slow start? Actually, on balance, all Russell did was go out and show why Mike Tomlin was absolutely correct in going back to him as a starting quarterback. They now have at least some threat of a passing game. They didn't have that before.
Yeah, in fact, Chris Collinsworth during the broadcast was talking about practice. They were watching some of those fade routes that Russ hit a touchdown on, and he was talking about the arch and kind of that moon ball that Russ is known for. He throws a beautiful pass. It's easy to catch. He didn't see any of those type of passes in those type of situations coming out of the hands of Justin Fields. And it's not a knock on Fields. It just shows some of the things that they were lacking in the passing game in that offense. And what I thought was pretty telling last night, after the slow start, and then Russ was able to start taking some shots downfield.
Yeah.
What I noticed was they'd open the defense up a little bit, and then guess what? The Steelers started hammering the Jets with the run game. And by the end of the night, Russ had a couple of touchdowns passing. He had 264 yards through the air, and the ground game was dominant as the game went along, and it just kind of had more balance in the offense. Now, I don't know if that's going to continue game to game, but again, I'm going to be a lot less quick to criticize or question someone like Mike Tomlin, who is one of the best coaches in the game and clearly has a great pulse on that locker room. And I'll say this, Godfather, I thought last night was a perfect example of two franchises that are polar opposites.
Yeah.
Meaning, with the Steelers, let's take the Russ situation, for example. There were a lot of people when that announcement came out that were like, he's not real. Mike Tomlin's not going to bench Justin Fields. They're 4-2, and he's just using this as a ploy to mess with the Jets. Well, when the game time hit, Russ indeed was the starter, and Tomlin meant exactly what he said. Now, why would that be? Because the Steelers, for years, they've only had 3 head coaches in my lifetime. That's how stable they are as a franchise. They have ownership. They have their general manager.
They have the same owner for your lifetime, too.
Exactly. The same family, the Rooney family, which is well-respected, big time.
Absolutely.
One of the most well-respected families in all of sports. Well, when they hire a head coach, they give him the authority over the football team to make decisions about quarterback, who's going to play a running back, what type of schemes they want to run, how they want to do things. That's Mike Tomlin's decisions. That's his business, and he's got the autonomy to be able to do that. So when he wants to make the change to Russ because he believes that that's the best decision for his football team, he's not going to get any interference from up above because they've given him autonomy to do that, which is a good thing. Now, with the Jets, from my understanding, Hassan Reddick, he suddenly got a deal done. We know that they made the trade for Devontae Adams. Well, from all the reports that are out there, that was not their general manager who suddenly stepped in and got those deals done. It was Woody Johnson,
the owner.
The owner. So the owner steps in and he starts getting deals done, working around and aside and away from his general manager.
Yeah,
and also,
great organization.
Exactly. And keep in mind, he made the decision to fire the head coach without input from the general manager.
Yeah.
And so what you have with the Jets compared to the Steelers is total dysfunction because the head coach doesn't have true autonomy over his team. It's probably Aaron Rodgers. The general manager doesn't have autonomy over the roster because Woody Johnson will step in and make whatever changes he wants. But then you look over at the other sideline, and you've got the Steelers, who have been a model of consistency for decades. And Mike Tomlin made a decision to go with Russ because he thought it was the best decision for his team. And by the end of the night, you're like, you know what? Russ is a better thrower than Justin Fields. It's not even debatable.
Yeah. You talk about the Jets. They're having a lot of trouble on offense. So they elevate the defensive coordinator to the head coaching job.
Yeah.
Then they're having a lot of trouble on offense. Yeah, I hear you. Okay. Let's not make the offensive coordinator call the plays. Now we're going to have somebody else calling the plays. This is Looney Tunes. The whole thing is crazy. I mean, that's just so typical of that organization for years and years and years. Yeah. Meanwhile, Tomlin makes the quarterback change, and really, I think people who watch a lot of football understood what was going on. But the criticism, and it's the same criticism Brian Noe had when he was in studio with us last week. The only criticism you could make was, well, it's probably a good idea, but I don't know about the timing of this. They're playing the Jets. Well, you know what? The timing was perfect because this was the perfect team to do it against. These guys are disorganized. They don't know what they're doing, but it was a team that most people thought would beat the Steelers. Tomlin knows if he wants to get anywhere in the playoffs, get past the first round, to beat these good teams, you've got to have a passing threat better than what they had. You can't just rely on your quarterback scramble around, pick up stray yards here and there. That just isn't going to work. Now they have that threat. And people look back on Russ's career in Denver and say, well, he had 2 lousy years. No, the first year was a disaster. wasn't his fault. It was that idiot offensive coordinator that now is with the Jets. The second year wasn't bad at all, but it just wasn't good enough for the guru, Sean Payton.
Exactly. In fact, Russ, people, they have their idea about Russ. There are people that like him, and there are people that can't stand him. And because they can't stand him, they refuse to acknowledge what type of quarterback he truly is.
That's right.
And you're right. Last year in Denver, 26 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. He had a 98 quarterback rating, which is above average.
Yes.
And he completed 66% of his passes. Now, he didn't mesh with the head coach, and that's fine. But Russ is not an awful quarterback. He can still get some things done. And most importantly, compared to Justin Fields, he's going to be able to open up the passing game, and we saw that last night. And I just appreciate the Steelers for what they are. I've respected their franchise ever since I was young. The family does things the right way. They treat people the right way. And when they hire someone, they empower them to do their job. And it's worked for them, and they're one of the most consistent and winning franchises in the history of the NFL. And that's not by mistake, but because they run it the right way. That's how simple it is. And the Jets they're one of the worst franchises in the NFL in my lifetime because they're not run the right way. It's total chaos.
I don't know. There's certain constants with a franchise like that too, and Tomlin he's a constant. But other things about his game are constant. Their defense is going to kick your butt.
Yeah, they're
unless
physical.
you're ready to play. You might have guys carried off the field. They are that physical, and it happened last night. They mean business out there, and almost always their special teams are good. Their special teams are magic, and it amazes me he's able to keep that kind of quality on the defensive side. Now, granted, partly because they spend more money on the defense probably than most teams do.
Yeah.
You know, they don't have a lot invested in their quarterback.
A couple
usually.
mil. Yeah.
Well, ever since Big Ben left, and he was making money, but ever since it's been something they've been looking for. But Russ is a guy that's going to get them through until they can find their way to a young quarterback.
Yeah. I think it's impressive that you can have a quarterback situation where you're not investing any dollars in the quarterback. You have 2 cast-off in Justin Fields and Russell Wilson, and yet here they are 5-2 and a major threat in the AFC. Why is that? Because they have a culture. They know who they are. They have an identity. And like you mentioned, it's defense number one.
Their defense travels.
It travels. It goes everywhere.
Yeah.
And we're going to run the football. And those are 2 ingredients in that type of weather that you need because they play in the AFC North. Bad weather football games coming in the very near future.
Mm-hmm.
And that formula works, and it's worked for them for years. And if they just get adequate quarterback play without the big mistakes or the turnovers, they're going to be in a position to win.
Yeah.
The Jets, they won't be because they're a house that's divided. And we all know what happens when you have a divided house. It falls. Woody Johnson is a clown, and it starts at the top.
Yeah.
No disrespect to the Johnson family, but it is a train wreck.
No disrespect.
They're a train wreck.
Every time I hear you say no disrespect, I grab this table and say, here comes the disrespect.
All right, coming up next, what is it like to know that you have your one big shot to walk onto a college football team?
Wow.
Well, it's coming up tomorrow for our man Nolan. He's going to join us next. He's trying out tomorrow on Tuesday to be the next kicker for the Arizona State Sun Devils. We'll find out how he got a hold of Coach Dillingham, what he expects tomorrow, and we'll get into some details on that. I'm pretty excited about it. All right, I'm excited about what we have coming up next. Now, before we go to our guest, I want to play a couple of things to set this up. So, Arizona State, they played at Cincinnati on Saturday morning, and they lost by 10, 24-14. The issue was the kicking game once again. In that second half, they missed 2 kicks, which would have made it a one-score game, giving Arizona State a chance to get back in the game. And, of course, you know, head coaches, they get frustrated when kickers miss kicks. Here's what Kenny Dillingham had to say immediately following the game.
So you would hope that you can make, a kick, one of those, but our kicking game's atrocious. So if you can kick and you're at Arizona State, email me, right? We're going to have kicking tryouts on Monday. So bring it on, kicking tryouts Monday. Let's go.
Seriously?
Yeah, I'm dead serious. We're going to put it out on our social. We're going to have a kicking tryout on Monday. We got to find somebody who can make a field goal.
All right, Godfather, he said that on Saturday.
Yeah.
He then
In the
regretted
heat of battle, right?
In the heat of battle. He regretted it because he said, hey, he put out a tweet. It's like, I realize that when I'm talking about the kicking game, I'm really just talking about one person. So I regret it.
That didn't really make it any better, did it?
So he came out a couple of days after. Here's the, well, I'm going to call it a fake apology, but here's what he had to say today.
Obviously, first thing I want to say is I apologize for what I said after the game. I know I sent out a tweet. We've got a bunch of emails, shows the interest in the position. We're gonna vet them all. It's hard to obviously, get on a roster, so not everybody can qualify. At the end of the day, like I told our guys, we got to do a better job coaching them, giving them confidence, putting them in a position to be successful. And one of those guys will probably be the guy moving forward, and I'm excited.
Well, we happen to have one of those guys on hold right now, and very happy to welcome Nolan Krensky to the program. He's going to be trying out for ASU tomorrow as a kicker. Nolan, thank you so much for your time.
Hey, yeah, what's up?
Dude, it's so great to have you on the show. So let's go ahead and start with this just so people understand. I want you to give a bit of a background. I know that you went to high school in Wakeland High School in Frisco, Texas, so you were a kicker there. So tell us about that experience and then the decision to move on to go to college at Arizona State.
Yeah, so started my journey actually in middle school. Come from a soccer background. My dad was a kicker as well. He played at the Air Force Academy, I think, in like the 80s, but he was a third-string kicker. So he was a big inspiration to me starting kicking. And then, of course, went up to high school, played freshman year, played for the JV team, and then 2 years on varsity. And then when I decided to go to college, there was a couple factors going into it. I'm an aviation major here at ASU. So I was looking for a D1 program with a football team and an aviation major. So looked at a couple schools, Kansas State, Purdue, Louisiana Tech, Middle Tennessee, Auburn, all schools that kind of fit that criteria. And when I came to ASU, checked all the boxes, instantly fell in love with the school. I love going to school here. Just kept working, kicking, and looking forward to getting my shot on the team.
Now, have you tried walking on previously with this coaching regime?
Not with this current coaching staff, but I did try out with the previous one under Herm Edwards in 2022 and did pretty good at the tryout. The current or the special teams coordinator at the time, I think, was Slocum is his last name, and I did really well, and they wanted to see me in the spring 23 practice. But I'm sure y'all know what happened with that. They all got fired for some NCAA trouble. So just been reworking it with this new staff, posting videos, and I think I finally got my shot.
No, this is exciting, Nolan. And as you know, I'm a Sun Devil fan, so I want you to win this job. And then based on what I can tell with video, I think you can help them. So take us back to Saturday. So I know you're watching the game. When did you see the message that Coach Dillingham put out, and then what did you do after you knew he was looking for tryouts for kickers to come in?
Well, it's actually kind of funny because I didn't have the opportunity to watch the game because I was doing a flight, part of my getting my commercial license. So I was getting ready for my flight, and one of my friends sent me like what happened in the post-game interview, and I was like, holy cow, this might be a shot for me. So I went on Twitter and posted it, just kind of like a Hail Mary to see what would happen, and it blew up, and it just absolutely crazy.
So, Nolan, you haven't kicked in a game now since high school, right? So I assume you've been going out regularly and still practicing kicking, right?
Yeah, here at the ASU campus or the ASU Polytech campus, they have a student athletic center with 2 soccer fields, and I've just been going out once or twice a week, just going to the soccer fields, usually by myself. And they have these goals out there, and I just go out by myself, kick footballs over the soccer goals, and film myself doing it, and then tag the coaches. But also, there's some local Arizona coaches, Alex Zendejas and Steve Roush, and they train kickers on weekends, and they bring a lot of talent out there, especially Coach Roush, because he trains the ASU kickers. So I go out on Saturdays when they're having these sessions, and I get to see where I stack up against the current ASU kickers.
So where do you stack up against them?
I feel like I'm pretty even. I feel like when we're having a good day, it's very even. I feel like I can kick a college ball, and I can compete on the college level.
What's your range?
64 or 65 longest field goal in practice, and then in game about 50, I believe.
Are you consistent?
Hey, Nolan, your numbers in high school for field goals?
I don't remember off the top of my head, but my stats are out there on Max Preps and Huddle, so if y'all get some time and y'all want to take a look at it, it's available online.
All right, so did you email Coach Dillingham or did you tag him on Twitter? Like, how did you set up the tryout? How did that go, the communication?
Yeah, so posted that video. It obviously blew up, and I got a follow from Kenny Dillingham. And then a little bit later, one of the recruiting coordinators reached out to me, and I've been in contact with him ever since, and we got the tryout set up.
Dude, what did your dad think when you let him know that you got a chance to try out?
Oh man, they are over the moon. My parents are so happy for me. They've been supporting me since the beginning. It's just really great. I'm so happy for this opportunity that I have right now.
Okay, what do you expect at the tryout? You think you're going to get a good, fair shot at this? And are the previous kickers going to be in competition with you and vice versa?
I have no idea if I'm going to be the only kid out there or if there's going to be 100 kids. And I have no idea if the other Arizona State kickers are going to be out there as well. But regardless, I think it's going to be, if it's anything like the walk-on tryout freshman year, it should be a pretty fair competition. They're going to see how I do short range, long range. They may have me hit some kickoffs, punts, and do some place holding as well.
Now, are you a junior right now? What year are you right now, Nolan?
I'm a junior here at ASU.
But having not played, you could probably be a sophomore eligibility-wise, right?
Right. Yeah, I would really like to, if this goes through and I make the team, I would really like to speak to a coach or someone who deals with like time eligibility about how many years I have, because the COVID year might play a factor into it as well.
Yeah.
You know what's great about this? Like, you're actually a fan of the ASU Sun Devils too, so you would have a chance to live out your dream to kick and actually help the team that you love. Yeah,
been to every home game here, and when they're not here, I watch them on TV. I love going to the games. I see myself out there when the other kickers are kicking. Have a lot of, my idols are like Dario Longhetto, Michael Turk. I just love this team. I follow all the specialists. It's really awesome that I now may have a shot to actually go out on that field and help the ASU team.
Okay, I know you punt too. Are you better place kicker than punter, or even, or what's your punting range?
Punting range, I can hit a college ball. I would say I'm a little less consistent at punting, but it's just another thing to add to make me a valuable player, because
Sure.
Let's say field goal doesn't work out for me. Maybe they might need a punter or take me on just for kickoffs or punting and place holding, so it adds value to the team if it doesn't work out for me to be just a field goal kicker.
Can you get it to the end zone on your kickoffs?
Yes, I can. And if you look at the my Twitter posts, I've been posting for 3 years now. You can see all the kickoff videos that I have. You can reach out to some of the coaches if you want. I practice kickoffs with them. They can tell you all about it. But yes, I have good range. I can hit a college kickoff.
We're talking with Nolan Krinsky, who's going to be trying out for the ASU Sun Devils tomorrow. Now, I would imagine since your dad was at Air Force that he had influence, but I love the fact that you're studying aviation right now, want to become a pilot. How young were you? What got you hooked on the flying to where that became your passion and you wanted to pursue it?
I really had a fascination with World War II planes. I thought they were really cool. And then, of course, my dad being a pilot, kind of just want to follow in his footsteps. I think it's a really cool job. You get to travel the world and get paid to do it. And, I'm still working at it here at ASU. I love going to school here for the pilot program. If I don't make the team, the end goal is to be a pilot. So I don't plan on transferring out or anything.
How nervous are you about your tryout tomorrow?
The tryout is actually going to be posted for Wednesday. It's going to be at 11 a.m. So, it's a mix of emotions. It'd be hard to say that I'm not a little bit nervous, but I'm also excited. I really just super happy to show these coaches that I can compete on this level and maybe help out the ASU team. So, definitely a mix of emotions.
Your Godfather.
Yeah.
How can we not pull for Nolan, man? This is awesome.
Yeah. You're going to be carrying the hopes and dreams of a lot of us out there.
Yeah.
Well, Nolan, I tell you what, before you go, I want to play one thing for you because this is very important. Take a listen to this. Everyone needs to hear this.
Go, Devils, go!
All right, we are pulling for you, my man. I'm so glad that you came on, and I'm so excited that you got your opportunity to go out there. And, I mean, this is what you've been dreaming about. So now you got a chance to go out there and make it happen. And what more could you ask for? Just a chance, right? And you got that chance right now. That's great.
Yep. Super excited.
All right, Nolan. Well, I tell you what, if you do secure the kicking job, and I'm confident that you will, we're going to want to get you back on to talk about that experience at the trial. But Dwight and I wish you the absolute best. Thank you for coming on. I know you're a Devil fan. This is awesome, man. I'm excited for you.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to have me on and share my story. It's been great.
All right. Well, God bless you, and good luck, my
Good
friend. Go
luck.
get him. Go
Yeah.
get him, Nolan.
Thank you, guys.
Go, Devils, go!
Okay, that's enough of the Go Devils.
Dude, how cool is that guy? He's going to be an airline pilot. He's high level.
Yeah, he is. That is cool.
I love the question you ask him, too. It's like, hey, you haven't kicked in a game in a while.
Yeah.
And the guy flies planes. How nervous is he going to be lining up to kick field goals in front of Kenny Dillingham? Which is harder? As soon as he told me he's a pilot, I'm like, oh, you got this, man.
Yeah. Well, Dillingham obviously doesn't have a lot of patience for kickers. I would say that.
Well,
Ooh.
if you saw some of the kicks that were coming off the feet of those kickers this
Pretty
year.
bad.
Yeah, and I seen video posts, too. Every time Nolan goes to a game, he posts a video. It's like, I'm here checking out ASU, and I'm really paying attention to the specialist. Like, he's watching a kicker. He's like, get me in there, coach.
You should have seen it in Section 13, Row L, Seat 4. Come get me at halftime.
Dude, you know what's great, too, is it could be like the kicker up at Washington, the guy that wears pads like a linebacker. He actually earned a scholarship.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping for Nolan that he gets the call and can kick well enough to earn himself a scholarship. And like you said, with the extra eligibility, he could be finished with school and just kicking for ASU.
Yeah, I forgot about the COVID year, too, because he was in school then. So he might get 4 more years.
Oh, my gosh.
I just you're so used to and what do you study? Oh, yeah, I'm a philosophy major. He's like, yeah, no, aviation. Just throws that curveball at
I didn't
you.
even know they had that.
That's
major.
awesome.
Did you know they had a major in aviation down there?
No.
Wow.
That's great. Dad kicked at Air Force, and now he gets a chance to follow in father's footsteps and kick at ASU. That's badass.
I can't even imagine flying an airplane. I could kick better than I could fly an airplane.
Well, every time my hands are getting clammy just thinking about it. I read those stories sometimes about people in the small planes and the pilot heart attack and is out, and they got to land the plane, and somehow they're able to do it with help. I wouldn't even know how to get a hold of I work in radio. I wouldn't even know how to put the headset on and get a hold of someone down below.
Yeah. All I know is Mayday. Yeah. Mayday. That'd be it.
Hey, Kurt Russell and Halle Berry did it, an executive decision. You can do it too.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Who was that? Someone said they ran into Halle Berry. Oh, I think it was Dan Patrick. I heard him the other day. He hung out with Dave Justice back in the early days when he was with the Braves.
Uh-huh.
And he went over to interview Justice at his apartment, and Hallie was there before she was like known. And he's like, I've never seen anyone in person more beautiful than that person right there, Halle Berry. And even John Smoltz was like, yeah, pretty awesome. Man, Nolan, we wish you the best. I want him to win that job because I think that'd be a great story.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Gosh, that's great. Social media is amazing. Hey, Coach, here's a video. Take a look at it. All right, you're in. You're in for a tryout. I love the fake apology, too. Well, I realize now that I shouldn't have been talking about the kicker like that, although we're still going to have the tryouts because we need a kicker.
Yeah, and I was really only talking about one person. Oh, okay. Throw it all on one guy. Before it could have been 2 or 3 guys. Now it's just that one guy you're going to make fun of.
I tried out for Oregon's baseball team.
You did?
Yeah. And
Awesome.
when we went to those tryouts, it was the first year with George Horton. We walk into those tryouts, and there was probably about 70 of us. And he's like, this is what we're going to do. I'm just going to be up front with you guys. I have a 25-man roster that I have to have. I already have 27 guys on roster, so I got to cut 2 of my own guys. The only way you're going to make it is if you're better than guys I already have. I don't think anyone from that tryout made it. But he was honest up front. And you know how cool it is to just go to a tryout with one of the best baseball coaches of all time? Like, that was awesome.
Did you ever go to a tryout like that, Godfather?
I was never good enough to go to a tryout. No. I did have scouts a couple of times tell me that I would do something during a game, and I knew scouts anyway. For some reason, they talked to me, and I had a guy say, boy, you looked really good tonight. I'll never forget it. A guy named Jim Foster. He lived in Aloha. He scouted for, maybe the Cubs. I don't remember who he scouted for, but
that felt good.
It's probably the highlight of my career. Highlight of a mediocre career.
But that's pretty cool that he can go and get instruction from Zendejas.
Yeah.
That's a legacy family for ASU.
Well, the
Zendejas
kickers
family.
always, the punters and the place kickers have really good camps where they get big-time instruction from the pros.
And you were going to ask him if he had a soccer background. He answered that right out of the gate.
Yeah.
I got a soccer background. And we're seeing a lot of that now where
yeah.
majority of the NFL guys, soccer background.
Well, for the place kickers, the punters now are coming from Australia.
What do you say his range was? 64 yards?
Yeah.
I don't even know if I could kick a football. I suck, but I don't even know if I could kick one 20 yards in the air. I could get it 20 yards with the roll, but I don't even know if I could get one 20 yards in the air.
Yeah.
I can't kick.
The thing is, when you go out to the park and you tee it up and then you kick, it's a lot different than having the guy snap the ball, place it down, the timing of all that with people running in your face. I would think that might cut your distance back a little bit.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking if I give me a running start from about 50 yards, and I'll put everything I got into it.
You'd have to start running.
Don't snap yet.
Yeah. Before they even lined up, you'd have to start running.
I hit a 30-yarder one time before band practice at Autzen because we'd practice at Autzen.
Yeah.
So I'd kick field goals while everyone was up warming up. I hit a 30-yarder. Probably could have hit it from 40. This thing was pure. The annoying part is I've never hit a ball as pure since or before. It was just that one that went in. If I lined up from 10 yards out right now, I would shank the heck out of it. But one time, I kicked perfect, and it felt so good.
That's so awesome. We saw in the 49er game yesterday, their kicker whiffed on the onside kick.
Yeah. Goodness sakes.
It had a goal.
How long have you been doing this, pal?
Feel to it, yeah. He walked up and just whiffed on the ball, and it rolled about 5 yards. You could tell by the way he walked out the field, he was not too happy with his performance.
He was disgraced.
Oh, my gosh. I'm nervous for Nolan right now.
I'll bet you all the TV stations will be out there for that, too.
Yeah.
That's great TV.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, he's going to be nervous, but that's okay. You need some of those butterflies to keep you focused on the task at hand.
You'll probably be able to find clips on social media of that tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to be all over that.
Yeah.
All right, Nolan Karinsky with the tryout. When we come back, we'll get some early thoughts on the World Series from Godfather. And plus, is this going to be as highly rated of a World Series that I think it's going to be? Some people don't think so.
Yeah.
And I'm not convinced that people saying they're not going to watch, I think they're lying. How can you not tune into Judge and Ohtani? We'll get to that next. All right, Godfather, we got to go to the phones. You know, a lot of times I feel like I've heard every story that you've had to share,
Yeah.
but then you tell me something new. I'm like, I never knew that.
Yeah.
Well, Rev is on hold, and he wants to join because he's got a story he's never told me about before. But, Rev, you tried out for a kicking position on Portland State's team back in '77?
Yeah, I was 19 years old, freshman year. I had a really strong leg in high school at Beaverton, but I pulled my quad muscle just before the season, so I only got to play in about the last 3 games at Beaverton. And so I went down one day and talked to Mouse Davis. Mouse was the coach, and June Jones was the quarterback.
Oh, man.
Neil Lomax was coming down at a high school at Lake Oswego, and he was coming down and working out when he was still in high school during spring ball. So I got to play spring ball for 3 weeks, got to work out with all those guys. Steve Weaver, Dream Weaver, he was the radio voice back then.
Yeah.
So anyway, I got to play in the green and white game, got to kick a couple extra points. And but they had a senior kicker named Tommy Bird who was pretty good. And if you're going to, as a walk-on, if you're going to take away a scholarship from somebody, you got to be dynamic. It's like who was it, Chris, or who was it in the last segment was talking about trying out for the Ducks baseball team?
Yeah, Burkhart. Yep.
Yeah, I could picture that. And while you were talking to Nolan, I mean, I had so many flashbacks and so many memories of that time, of that excitement of, just to get a chance to do that and to see, that era of Portland State with Mouse Davis and June Jones and then Lomax and all that.
Oh,
I mean,
man. They were so
that
good.
was historic.
Yeah.
That was historic. And so, no, I didn't, they didn't invite me back to fall camp, but just to have that experience and then listening to Nolan describe what he's about to embark on was just really cool. I mean, it just really makes me want to pull for the kid. So, I mean, that was a great interview. I don't know how you found that and got him on there, but that was really cool, Chad.
No, I appreciate it, Rev. Thank you so much for calling in, dude. I didn't know that story about you trying out for Portland State, but all I did was I saw his post on social media, knew he was a Sun Devil fan, and so I tweeted directly at him and gave my phone number and said, hey, hit me up. I want you on the show. And he hit me up. He texted me, and the rest is history. I love stories like that because walk-ons, getting a chance to play and maybe cracking the team and being a part of the team because he clearly wants it badly. Like, who can't root for a guy like that?
No kidding. Yeah.
It's so cool. All right, World Series. Let me ask you this question first. Do you think that this is going to get massive ratings? I do because it's New York and it's L.A. and you've got Aaron Judge and Ohtani. And my thought is that I'm hearing from a lot of people that they have no interest in the World Series whatsoever. I don't believe them when they say that. They're still going to watch. What say you, Godfather?
I think the ratings will be good. I know there's 2 schools of thought on this. I think it depends most, though, on how the games are. If it's one of those great World Series where back and forth, good games, people will start jumping on board in the second game and be with it all the way to the end. That's the most important factor. I thought big ratings, and then I read the great Bill James, who did the baseball abstract, was hired by the Red Sox, helped them get that World Series that they'd never won before. He knows a lot about the game. He said, this is his tweet today, I saw people saying that the Dodgers-Yankees series will get great TV ratings. Is that your belief? Because I'm skeptical. Put the 2 hardest teams in baseball to root for head-to-head. You really think that will draw big ratings? And to an extent, there's an awful lot of Dodger haters, Yankee haters out there who probably won't watch because they're in it.
Or they hate those teams so much they'll watch to root against them.
That's true, too, yeah.
Yeah.
They hate one of them. A lot of people hate both.
I just think the star power on the field is too immense for people not to tune in. If you're a baseball fan, you're going to want to watch Ohtani because he's a freak. Or Aaron Judge, who's one of the coolest guys ever, and he's like Paul Bunyan out there. And then you got cool guys like Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts. I think it's a delicious matchup. I've been waiting for this one now for a few years, and I'm excited that it's here. What do you think about the matchup, personally? Because you watch baseball, you love it. What do you think about this matchup?
I think it's a toss-up. The odds have been really close on it. I give the Dodgers a bit of an edge. Little better from top to bottom, pitching a little better depth-wise. But you never know in a World Series because all of a sudden somebody doesn't hit or they do hit. Kike Hernandez gets hot again and owns the World Series, or Freddie Freeman with a sprained ankle starts hitting. You just don't know. I'm not sure, Chad, but I just hope it's a great series. I hope the games are really good.
Hey, Burkhart, you're a baseball fan. You're a Red Sox fan. What do you think about this matchup?
He hates the Yankees, right?
Yeah. He hates the Yankees, so he's probably going to watch and root against the Yankees and pull for the Dodgers, I would guess. I don't know. Aaron Judge and Ohtani are about as good as it gets for me. I love watching those guys at the plate.
Yeah.
Because I always expect the spectacular with those two guys.
Yeah, and you'll get it most of the time.
And that's what I'm hoping for in this series. I want big moments, late inning, high pressure situations with some of those big names coming up to the plate. And I'm hoping Freddie Freeman's like one of the nicest guys in the history of baseball. I really respect him and love the way he plays. I hope this time off between now and Friday is enough to get that ankle back to a point where he can play and be at first base and not be a liability. You know what I'm saying? Like, they need him out there.
Yeah,
I just hate for a guy like him to get to this point and not be able to be a full participant because of that ankle.
Yeah, I think he'll be much better after these days off. I think the days off are perfect. Both teams will get their pitchers a rest because they both really had to overwork their whole pitching staff just to get here. So there is that. I also hope the networks do a good job with this. I'm a little tired of the narrative. Oh, here's baseball. 2 of the 3 highest payrolls are in the World Series. Well, look, of all the sports, it happens fewer times in baseball that doesn't have a salary cap than it happens in any other. Look at basketball in the NBA. The high payrolls, they play for the title almost every year. But in baseball, it hasn't happened. There have been other teams get in.
The Dodgers have been spending as much money as anyone for years. They have won title since 1988.
Yeah.
That's how effective it's been for them.
Yeah, and the Yankees, what, since 2000, what was it? Yeah, 2009.
Yeah.
So other teams are in there. And this is the first time those two have met in like 40 years, which seems unbelievable. They were talking to players about it. I saw the other day on MLB Network. None of the players were alive the last time the Dodgers and Yankees played in the World Series.
I know. That's crazy. All right, we'll keep things rolling. When we come back, just when you thought it couldn't get worse for the 49ers, it got worse, Godfather.
It sure did.
This is not something I expected. We'll share the latest with you next. It's 5 o'clock, Chad here. What's up, my friends? The Trailblazers kick off their season Wednesday night with the Golden State Warriors in town. Tip from Moda at 7. My man Chris Burkhart will have game day starting at 5 from Moda Center. It's all brought to you by Coors Light. Tickets are still available for the game, so head on over to trailblazers.com. Going to be an awesome T-shirt giveaway. Red Rip City shirts courtesy of Moda Health. And tomorrow we got Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday here in the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. Listen to us for your chance to win tomorrow. And every Tuesday throughout the course of the regular season, we'll have tickets to every home game. We have announced it. Sean Highkin of the Rose Garden Report is now our official Trailblazers insider. You can follow him on X at Highkin. The 49ers took a couple of L's yesterday. They lose to the Chiefs. They're now 3-4. And Brandon Ayuk is done for the season with a torn ACL. Monday Night Football doubleheader coming up at 5:15. Ravens at Bucks, followed by the Chargers at Cardinals at 6. That game's on ESPN+. All right, the 49ers are already without Christian McCaffrey. We don't know when he's going to come back. We got news today that they have lost Brandon Ayuk for the rest of the year with a torn ACL. And what a bad season for him. He holds out and isn't a participant in camp. And then when he shows up, he doesn't play well. He's had like 5 or 6 drops, including a big one yesterday throughout the course of, 7 games? And then he has the ACL. Now, I know a lot of people are like, hey, if he would have shown up to camp. The reality is this is the reason why guys like Ayuk fight and hold out to get the money that they believe they deserve from NFL owners. Why? Because in one play, you can be gone, just like he was yesterday. And now he's got protection because of the contract. So I give him props for doing what he felt was necessary to get the job done. But now we get other news. I can't believe this one. Deebo Samuel has what, Godfather?
Pneumonia with fluid in his lungs.
Okay. I mean, you've asked a question. I've asked a question. I just asked Chris a question. How on earth does an NFL player get pneumonia?
I just don't understand with all the athletic training staff they have around them and team doctors.
They have access to the best.
How does it progress that far to get all the way to pneumonia before somebody figures that out?
No, from my understanding with the way it works, if you're a pro athlete, like anytime there's a hint of anything, they give you a full exam. They want to know what's going on. They want to figure it out as quickly as possible. So if it needs treatment for whatever you're dealing with, they can get on it. That's bizarre.
When I saw that, I thought, gosh, pneumonia? Really?
That's brutal. And this is a team right now at 3-4, Godfather. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say they're not going to make the postseason. They're probably going to win the division. But the problem they face now, you take a look around the NFC, they're going to be in a position where they're probably going to have to play an extra game and end up taking off to the road to places like Detroit or Minnesota. Minnesota, where they've already lost this year. They've got issues right now. And my biggest problem, aside from the injuries, and I hate seeing good teams get, hit hard by injuries. Kyle Shanahan, it's about time this guy mixes it up a little bit or learns to become a little more flexible in his game plans. And I ran into the same thing as a Bronco fan for years with Mike Shanahan. But Mike Shanahan and Kyle Shanahan, they're both geniuses, and they know the West Coast offense with that power run game as well as anyone. But the one thing I've noticed with Kyle is the same thing I've seen in Mike, that they have their game plan and they have the plays that they call. They do what they do. But if they don't have the balance within the offense, they are not capable of functioning outside of that. Meaning, when Kyle Shanahan's able to run the football and they get downhill and the play action is working and they've got the balance in the offense with the run game leading the way, they're almost unstoppable. But if you stop the run and they have issues running the football, they cannot drop back and throw it with consistency. Kyle doesn't feel comfortable calling plays in that type of circumstance. And we saw it again yesterday where the offense just didn't work. It petered out. They couldn't run the football with consistency. And Brock Purdy played arguably his worst game as a 49er since he's been the starter.
Yeah.
And I put that on the coach. I put that on the quarterback. But I've seen enough of this with Kyle Shanahan. He's got to learn to become a little more flexible and adaptable to the situation. Now, I'm not saying he's Andy Reid, but take a look at Andy Reid. Andy Reid has had to adapt and be flexible for like 2 straight years because so many guys have been out of the lineup, different receivers, a lot of youth, different combinations up front with the pass protection, and yet he adjusts and adapts on the fly to work with whatever he's got and doesn't get locked into one thing. And he'll call a game completely differently from one game to the next based on what he believes he needs to win games. And that's part of what makes the Chiefs such a winning organization is that flexibility and adaptability of Andy Reid, which is second to none right now.
Well, I think you could make the case that Andy Reid has completely changed the character and the face of his franchise in a way. They look nothing like the team they were 3 years ago.
100%.
Totally changed.
3 or 4 years ago, they were the top scoring team where Mahomes was throwing 50 touchdowns, and they were going to outscore you. But with the loss of personnel and some of the injuries you've seen over the last couple of years.
And the salary cap problems probably too, right?
Exactly, yeah. Because they're paying 2 guys, Jones and Mahomes, a ton of cash. So what you and also their tight end, Kelsey. So what you've got now is you've got a team that runs the football a little bit more. They go with more of a controlled short passing game to get the ball out of Mahomes' hands. And then they rely on their defense. And their defense with Spagnuolo is so good that they're just comfortable throwing it away, live to play another down. Let's punt and play field position and let our defense take over. And here's the key with Spagnuolo that's so great. The Chiefs, it's a genius hire because he's one of those assistants. He's never going to be another head coach. He's had his chances running that department. He's done there. So now he's not a threat to leave. So as long as Reid is there, Spagnuolo is going to be there. And those 2 guys are in lock and step. And when you have that type of cohesion on your staff, and then you have the master quarterback in Mahomes, and you play it a certain way, they've got great team speed. They're just unbelievable because this is not an overpowering Chiefs team, but all of their games are close. And look at them. Yeah. They just make all the right decisions in the key moments to win games. And that's a mark of a great team, winning close football games because most of the games in the NFL are close, and I just respect the heck out of them. It pains me to say that as a Bronco fan, but Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and Steve Spagnuolo are just kicking everyone's ass in terms of preparation and game management. It's really impressive. It really is. And they did it yesterday. They just cold-cocked Brock Purdy and the 49ers offense.
Yeah, I sat and watched it and still couldn't quite believe what I was seeing. I really couldn't.
And then there was a report that after the game, there was a one-on-one conversation between Shanahan and Brock Purdy where, Shanahan basically kind of read him the riot act for about 5 minutes, and Purdy didn't respond or get angry. He's like, he kind of shook his head like, yes, sir, and then went about his business. I don't think he was happy with his quarterback's play yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean, Purdy's got to be better than that.
He ought to try to keep the defensive lineman off his back a little bit. That might help.
Gosh, he was getting killed.
Yeah.
And you brought up a good point, too. Their terrific left tackle got ejected from the game, Trent Williams, for retaliating after a dumb Chiefs player hit him in the head.
Yeah.
And Williams was like, screw you. And then he punched him in the head and got his payback. They throw a flag. Williams gets ejected. He walks out of the stadium, signs an autograph for a cute little girl before he enters into the locker room, and nothing happens to the guy who instigated the event.
Yeah.
Why can't they replay that like they do targeting?
That's what I don't understand. Somebody in the replay booth ought to looked that up and just said, hey, both guys got to go. Each guy threw a punch. But it used to be the same thing in the NBA all the time. The first guy never gets caught. It's the retaliation guy that always gets caught. If you make the first punch, you most of the time get away with it. It's unfortunate because I would expect an offensive lineman to hit back. I mean, you really have to, don't you? You got to retain your respect on a football field.
Well, and I'm sure Trent Williams is probably looking at it like, hey, you're some young guy. I don't know who you are, but I'm Trent Williams. Show me a little bit of respect.
Yeah, he
clown.
wasn't even a big guy. It's like, what are you doing? Hit me, and I'm not even really.
He was on the ground.
Yeah.
That's one guy you don't take a cheap shot at is Trent Williams.
Oh, man. That was too bad. That was unfortunate for them.
And I know he's wearing a helmet, but my thought would be if Trent Williams' club hits you in the helmet, that could cause some type of damage.
That's concussion protocol right there. Go right to the blue tent.
His arms, Trent Williams is a massive human being.
He certainly is.
That's who I want protecting my blind side is Trent Williams.
Yeah.
So I don't know, Godfather. The 49ers right now are a mess, and they've got time to turn it around. The good thing for them is that they play in a weak division, but you watch some of these other teams in the NFL right now or in the NFC, Minnesota, Green Bay, and especially Detroit, they're all better. Detroit is unreal right now. Unreal. They look great. And their quarterback, Jared Goff, who Sean McVay didn't want for some reason and tossed him aside to the curb. The Lions were happily took Goff, and look at him now. He's playing like, as you put it, an MVP. He might win the MVP. If the voting went down today, he might win it.
He's in the conversation, no question.
And can you tell me something else? Why do these NFL teams that are supposedly so good at everything, why do they suck so much at a two-point conversion?
I don't know. But why is it such a mystery picking up 2 yards?
I don't get it, man. I was watching the Minnesota game yesterday, and I was pulling for Minnesota. I don't know why, but I wanted to see Detroit lose, and they scored the touchdown to go up by 1. They get the sweet little fumble recovery. They had to put the dudes out there to go for the 2. And the play they ran was like a horrific pass out of shotgun where Darnold threw it at the feet of his receiver, had no chance. And I'm just like, that's the best you got? Like, that's the best you got. You work all year long in these plays, and that's the best you got? And we see it all over the place. It's like these teams move up and down the field, and all of a sudden they get to the 2-yard line. They're just clueless, dumbfounded.
Yeah, I don't get it either, Chad, because it used to be you talk to coaches, and they'd tell you, every week we have a new 2-point play in our pocket. Unless we didn't use the previous one, and then we'll have 2 in our pocket. But we add one every week, and it's something run off a play we previously run. So we have a little deception. But usually in the old days, too, they were under center for those short yardage plays like that so that there was more of a running threat. You could still throw the ball. You'd throw it off play action because you'd think they might want to stop those off-tackle runs. And so you have better chance than just going out of shotgun where the quarterback is setting up like 7 yards behind the line of scrimmage or behind the goal line. I mean, that makes no sense to me. I don't.
Yeah, it's troubling. It is. It bothers me. I don't understand. These teams can do so much, and yet they get down there. We need a 3-yard play. We got nothing in our books.
Well, and it's funny how often, I'd like to see the percentages someday on how often they pass. They pass a lot more than they run. When you would think, come on, some self-respecting team, even the dang Lions, who pride themselves on all their physicality, they'll still throw it more than they'll run it on the PATs.
It's really annoying.
I don't get it.
Really annoying. All right, Rip City Drive it to White and Chad. Chris Burkhardt is here. Okay, I'm going to ask you a question.
Here
we don't have to go in this direction if you don't want, but SEC guy made an appearance today.
Yes, I know. Down in Texas somewhere, right?
I think it was down in Texas because he was making fun of the Longhorns.
Right. Well,
for being fake SEC.
He had reason to do that, yeah.
So, I mean, we can play a few of those clips to let people know what the doctor's thinking about.
Could we please do that?
Yeah, we can do that next if you want. He's got thoughts on...
If I want, I'm begging you. Play it. SEC guy after all these years?
He's got thoughts on Kalen DeBoer.
Oh, my.
He's not a big fan of him, as you might imagine.
Oh, gosh, no.
He's got thoughts on Steve Sarkisian.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
I haven't heard him in so long.
He's still not a fan of the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, I figured that. It'd be interesting to hear him talk about the Ducks.
All right. We'll hit some of that next. He did. He made an appearance in Texas today. So we'll share a few of those thoughts with you next. And then we'll get back to the Ducks. They're number 1. Is that a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Does it really matter? And what is their main focus right now? Undefeated, number 1, and in control of the Big Ten. We'll talk about that. You got the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. You know, Sean and Sandy made a good point. He sent me a message. One area where being number one in the country matters, recruiting.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah,
number
it does.
one, and you get a chance to bring in some of these high-level recruits. We know they brought in a number of high-level recruits for the Ohio State game, and they were there to see the win and the atmosphere there at Autzen, which is great. And now you're out there at number one, you know, front and center ahead of Georgia, Bama, all the rest of the teams, and that's got to be a boon for Lanning and his staff when they get out on the recruiting trail.
It's kind of interesting, Chad. I noticed that they flipped some recruits that week after they beat Ohio State.
Yeah, and they've got a number of other guys they're pursuing right now, and it looks good. They're making some headway.
My worry on that, though, is if they flip after that game, if you lose later in the season to somebody else, they're going to flip again. You know what I mean? They're just kind of front runners.
That's true, but you could. I mean, some kids are going to flip and do whatever, but when you're number one and you've got Nike and you've got their facilities and you've got that atmosphere,
right?
They've got a lot to offer. So it does make sense. You're right. Being number one does help in the recruiting department. I'm just not so hung up on the rankings anymore. Not with the new 12-team format.
Doesn't
Again, this
matter.
is part of the reprogramming that we have to put ourselves through as college football fans, where the ranking used to matter because we were talking about two teams getting a chance at a national championship, or four teams when we moved to the playoff. But now the ranking is irrelevant. It's great they're number one. It's awesome, but it doesn't matter. What matters most is winning the Big Ten, winning your conference, and getting one of the byes so that you have to play one less game in pursuit of a national championship. So for the Ducks right now, just continue to do what you're doing. Focus on the details. Continue to improve in pass protection and run blocking. Keep your guys as healthy as possible and focus on winning your games. The good news is for them, even if they drop a game to Illinois or whether it's at Wisconsin or somewhere else, they're still in line to get to the Big Ten title game and get a rematch with Ohio State or play Penn State. And if you win that, you win the conference, and then boom, you're in. Going undefeated does not matter.
Yeah.
Going into the championship weekend as the 3-team or the 4-team doesn't matter. Or number one, it doesn't matter. Just win your conference. They're in a great spot right now.
Yeah, and I think a lot of coaches would tell you that sometimes losing that one game is a benefit because it snaps you back to reality. It gives you things to work on that might have been a problem all year, but since you didn't lose, people didn't take it too seriously. Now you lose a game because of it. Okay, now we're back to the drawing boards here. We're going to get serious. There's a lot of reasons where one loss alone, if you can still end up that top seed, winning a conference, that loss isn't going to hurt you at all.
Now, my own opinion from what I've seen so far this year, there's only one team in the country that I do not think Oregon can beat, and that's Georgia. Outside of that, I think they can compete with Ohio State. They've proven it. They beat them. Penn State, they can compete with Texas. Georgia's the only team I look at in the entire slate of teams in the top 10 where I'm like, yeah, they don't want to mess with that. And that's just because they have a better talent base where it matters most, up front. And we saw what they did going into Texas. I thought Texas would have a good chance to win that game. And Georgia went in against the best offensive line in the country, so we were told, and just annihilated them.
Yeah.
They destroyed him, made Quinn Ewers look bad. They made him look so bad they got him put on the bench for a couple of series in the first half, and then he came back in the second half. They just ran roughshod over him. I mean, that game was over before it began. That was crazy.
Yeah, the one thing I would wonder about with Georgia is, can they score a lot on the Ducks? I don't know. And I don't know how much the Ducks could score on them.
Well, that's the thing.
But I don't like the Georgia offense, particularly because I don't like their quarterback much. I know he's considered an NFL prospect. I wouldn't say he's a first-rounder, but he's certainly not a number one pick.
Before the year, he was considered the number one overall pick in the draft, which is insane. I knew that was crazy then.
But that's slipped now, right?
Oh, of course. He may not even be a first-rounder.
Yeah.
He's not having a good year. Looks like he's forcing the issue a bit. He just doesn't look dynamic at all. Yeah. Now, Shadur Sanders, I would take him number one without question. The guy's awesome. And Colorado, I know no one likes to give Coach Prime credit, but they're 6-2, another road win.
Yeah, they are.
They're playing good football right now. But Shadur is he's awesome. He's good. And I think Cam Ward, I would take Cam Ward ahead of Carson Beck without even thinking about it.
Sure.
But the thing about Georgia is they don't have to score big to beat you because they can just squash you with their defense.
Yeah.
That's how nasty they are. Well, speaking of Texas, SEC guy, longtime companion.
Chad, you should give a little background because we had him on the air so much in the mornings when we worked together.
Yeah, we
and you
got a
actually
call.
brought him to town after I had to leave the show. You brought him into town, right?
We did. On a couple occasions, he came to town, made an appearance in the Performance Lounge with Anthony Q. Newman, who wanted to kill him over there one day. Yeah, we were doing the show one morning, and we got a call from a guy named SEC Guy and said he wanted to talk about SEC football, and then he came on, and the rest is history. And he and I started out as adversaries. We became acquainted over the course of time, and he would come on the radio show all the time. But it was great when we had him out here in town because we had the Performance Lounge filled with Duck fans, and he was up there in front dressed like Colonel Sanders,
Yeah.
giving an exhortation on football, which was pretty funny. But he called into a Texas station today and shared his thoughts on a few things. So I pulled a couple of clips. Here he is talking about, look, if you want to be a part of the SEC, you got to follow rules the right way. And he's talking about Texas and their fans throwing bottles on the field, getting calls overturned. He thought it was ridiculous.
I believe in following the rules. I believe in closing the borders. I believe in being tough on crime, and I believe in following rules. I don't believe that we just flip and switch rules and laws around anytime we want to because people throw trash on the ground. See, I don't believe in that. I don't believe in littering either. I don't believe in none of that stuff.
All right, there's SEC Guy talking about following rules. He also talked about how it just means more down there. So I would assume he's talking about SEC football and how it just means more there down in the South than it does anywhere else. Let's take a listen to this.
It means more here in the SEC. It means more. But we also keep our yard nice, okay? And y'all throwing stuff all over the ground, University of Texas people, throwing stuff on the ground like that and acting a fool. And then these SEC/Big 12 referees that come out there and they change their mind. They change the rules. How would you like it if somebody stole your vehicle and they said, well, that's against the law. We caught him. We're going to prosecute him. They say, you know what? We're going to let him go. We're going to let him go. We changed the law. Stealing cars is legal now. That's basically what they did.
Well, no, I
you don't get to change the rules like that.
Not a big fan of the did you like the ref change there, too? After the long delay, after the bottle
No,
throwing, they went
no,
back and reversed the call.
There was no question in my mind that they watched the replay a number of times on the scoreboard and thought, nah, we did kick that call. We're going to make it right. The problem is the rules say that you don't use replay on penalties.
All right. Here is SEC Guy.
Oh, there's more?
On a variety of topics. Here he is talking about Sarkisian being Greek or something like that.
Aggies of Mississippi State. The same color. You both got a dog. Only one of them's a sissy dog. The other one's a tough dog. And Texas A&M got them cha-cha boys in the white shorts that try to tell people how to cheer and all that. They're real funny looking, and I feel like they're probably cha-cha sugar boys if you really want to know the truth. So, and also, just like in Mississippi, no one cares about Mississippi State. Guess what, Aggies? No one cares about you in your own state. And here's something else. Texas is basically Ole Miss. You got beautiful women. I put it on you there. That's pretty good right there. But on the other hand, you think better of yourself than everyone else does. You're not as good as you think. You keep going in there like you're hoity-toity, and then you get exposed, just like Lane Kiffin. You get exposed. Texas got exposed. Steve Sarkisian's just a Greek Lane Kiffin. That's all he is. Lane Kiffin with some stuffed Kalamata olives or whatever. That's all he is. And he got done up by Kirby. And Kirby got your Quinn kid also. How you going to be a quarterback in the SEC named Quinn? That's embarrassing. Georgia showed Texas exactly who they were. I thought it was funny. Y'all got put right in y'all's place. And guess what? If y'all get beat by Mississippi State Aggies, then it'll really be funny to me. But I can promise you, you're going to have your hands full with Vanderbilt. You're going to have your hands full with Vanderbilt. I know that for a fact because I watched my team get beat by Vanderbilt. And they got a Pavia at quarterback, and I never even heard of that.
That's good.
Quinn. His name is Quinn.
Yes, and as you might imagine, he's, after losses to Vandy and Tennessee, SEC guy's not happy with DeBoer.
We keep them in there to keep the grades up. But listen, at least they're in an SEC state. But they're not real SEC. We don't really claim them. Look, I want DeBoer out just like everyone else does. That guy's a joke. He came from the Pacific Northwest. I told you they couldn't play football. I told people forever. That's a bunch of sugarfoots over there. So, Tupelo football. Who plays flag football anymore. You don't do that. They bring that guy down here from Washington, and all of a sudden he figures out we can't win it all here. This is too hard. Boy, this is too hard. Listen, we got to get through this year, get rid of him, and then get Kirby in here, or maybe bring Dan Lannon back home because he does have some Georgia blood in him at least. We got to get rid of DeBoer. You're right. That's a disaster.
Yeah, not happy with DeBoer. 2 losses, and he wants him out of there.
He dogged Pacific Northwest football because of DeBoer, and then the next sentence said, "Get Lanning in here."
Yeah, the Georgia blood. Let's see what else we got here. Oh, this is something about the Wheel of Fortune.
He's so good.
I mean, so many vowels in this thing. He's like a
Oh, he's talking about how do you pronounce the Tennessee quarterback's last name? Burkhardt, Imalieva.
There you go. That works for me.
All right.
I mean, so many vowels in this thing. He's just like a walking, talking Wheel of Fortune. Put a consonant in your name. Put a consonant in your name. Giving him $8 million on the NIL. And this is something else. Don't come to me, Georgia, for any more NIL. I mean, Alabama for any more NIL. I ain't giving no more NIL till I get a real Southern coach.
There you go. He's not going to commit any more money to the NIL at Alabama until they get rid of DeBoer.
Yeah, people don't know. He's a doctor, so he's got some money.
He's got some cash. There you go. That's the latest on SEC guy.
Wow.
Glad to know he's doing well.
What a guest. I can't help but think of the good old days.
The good old days. Oh, my goodness. He almost got Q. He got Q really pissed off. That was amazing.
Yes, he did.
Anthony Newman was legitimately angry. No, this is my show.
You don't happen to have that clip, do you?
I got it somewhere. We'll save that for a rainy day.
You got to hunt that one down.
That's a good one. That's a good one. That will stand forever.
Oh, my. He was a big Jeffrey Mail fan, though.
You like Jeffrey Mail? He had a couple of guys up here he liked, but yeah, he came up not the biggest fan of Pacific Northwest football.
No.
He didn't like the spread. You know, he kind of followed Saban in that. Wasn't a big fan of the spread, and
Yeah.
he likes more of the 2 backs, I formation, quarterback under the center type of guy. He wouldn't like the stuff that's going on with the 2-point plays either,
No.
as he would put it, too much hully-gully activity from the shotgun.
Yeah, from those Sugarfoots.
You know, it was a good weekend, though, for Duck quarterbacks, Godfather. Pretty amazing, actually. Bo Nix on Thursday night.
Yeah.
Leading the Broncos to a dominant win over the Saints in the Dome, mostly by the work of his legs, but he got it done. And then after that, you had Dylan Gabriel on Friday night. I think he was 21-25 with a couple of touchdowns, just running that Duck offense to perfection in the route of Purdue, and did enough to cover the spread, which is important to some. Tyler Shuck looking pretty good for Louisville, even though the refs said for the ACC.
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about? If you're going to beat Miami right now in the ACC, you got to beat them by 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, it's called Miami Vice, I think.
Dude, it really is. And then Marcus Mariota coming in relief of Jaden Daniels, who got knocked out of the game yesterday, looking awesome.
That's the best I've seen him look in an NFL uniform. He was really good.
He looked great. I got to give a lot of props to Cliff Kingsbury for the work he's done with that offense. Jaden Daniels and now Marcus Mariota. It goes back to what we've talked about. Sometimes it's just a matter of a guy getting into the right spot with the right coaching staff, the right players around him, and then boom, and you can finally take off.
Well, you know, some systems prepare the backups better than other systems do, and it was pretty obvious Kingsbury had really schooled Mariota on what he wanted from him.
And props to Mariota. He's a mature guy now. He's been around the league. Like, it's nice when you have a guy on the bench that you know you can put in and have confidence in to where you can win a game or you can play a half with, you know, Mariota at quarterback knowing that he can get the job done.
Yeah.
You need that in the NFL because it's such a physical game that your quarterback, look, he might start every game, but he might get dinged up and have to miss a quarter or so or be out of series. You got to put in a guy that you can believe in to get the job done.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tennessee put in their backup. First play against Alabama in the first half, pick, threw an interception. He wasn't ready for that moment, but it's nice to see Mariota get that. And then tonight, here in about 25 minutes, you're going to get Justin Herbert down there in the desert, Chargers and Cardinals. So if you're a Duck fan, this is a
pretty good weekend.
Pretty good weekend. It's nice to see the school getting that type of shine with so many different quarterbacks.
Quarterback you.
And Big Play VA even shining in the Canadian Football League this week, okay? Everybody's playing big everywhere.
Who?
Vernon Adams.
Oh, Vernon Adams. You're right.
Oh, I didn't even know he was up there. Who's the guy that played up there for years? Smaller guy?
Doug Flutie.
Who?
Doug Flutie?
No. The
Mazzoli.
Oregon guy.
Jeremiah Mazzoli.
Mazzoli, yeah. He was really good in the CFL. I think he won a Grey Cup. I'm not sure, but I think he did.
Yeah, I can't remember. And he's still up there. He's just been battling some injuries lately, but he had one year where he was one of the best quarterbacks in that league. He just tore it up. So, yeah, go Ducks.
He was a magnificent ball handler on the option. Oh, my goodness. He was a magician.
Where did he transfer to? Did he go to Ole Miss after he left Oregon? Yeah, I think he went to
That's
Ole
right,
Miss.
yeah.
Yeah, Ole Miss.
Huh.
Yeah, he was good. He'll be forever an Oregon legend for trucking Oregon State in the Civil War.
That fourth down run in the Civil War for the Roses, legendary.
That was an all-timer right there. I liked Masoli. He was good, man. He was
was.
tough.
Yeah.
He was tough and a heck of a player for Chip. They had a good run of quarterbacks there for a while.
He sure did.
And we looked it up, too. We were wondering why Alex Brink, who went to school where? Southridge? Is that where he
Sheldon.
went?
No, Sheldon.
Yeah. We were wondering why the Ducks didn't recruit him or make an effort to bring him in. Who did they recruit at the same time?
Yeah, I looked it up in that same recruiting class. They drafted some dual threat quarterback named Dennis Dixon.
Yeah, Dennis Dixon.
Yeah, that was a pretty good get.
Yeah, Dixon was great. And again, more horror stories for Duck fans. But if he doesn't rip his knee, we're down at Arizona, they probably play him for a national championship.
Yeah, he hurt it against Arizona State. And then, that run, he tried to cut back against Arizona. Boom. He was probably Heisman that year. Probably would have won it before Mariota. He was incredible.
He was really good.
He was really good. And then they had Stewart in the backfield with him, right?
Yeah, my favorite Duck running back of all time.
Oh, that's your favorite Duck running back?
Oh, Jonathan Stewart. Oh, boy.
Even more so than LaMichael?
I like Stewart more than LaMichael. And I love LaMichael. That's saying something about Jay Stu. Jay Stu was also my time. Like, he was a freshman when I was a freshman, lived in the same dorm. He's my guy.
My favorite is LaMike, but I have I'm very partial to Ruben Drones because he went on to be very productive for the Denver Broncos.
You know, Chad, I saw Ruben a lot that year before he got hurt. Whew. He was a difference maker. I don't know if he was ever the same after that injury, but he was a great combination of speed and power.
He had a year he put up over 1,000 yards for the Broncos. He was unbelievable in that Mike Shanahan system. They've had some good running backs over there. There's Derek LaVille. Won championships with the Broncos. He was good. He was a nice backup to Terrell Davis.
Yeah, the Maurice Morris, Ontario Smith tandem was pretty darn good.
That was darn
Ontario's
good. LeGarrette Blount was amazing. I mean, he was tremendous.
Speaking of that, I think it's going under the radar, Chad, how good Dan Lanning and company have been at reaching out to alum, which was a big hang-up. Remember when Joey Harrington and all them wrote that letter, and that's why they wanted Wilcox to be the coach and whatnot? You look at that game at Ohio State, who was on the sideline?
All the studs.
LeGarrette Blount was on the sideline.
Was he really?
And he has distanced himself from Oregon at times.
He used to list, when they had the players say their school on the introductions, he would list his high school instead of Oregon.
Right. And so remember like the video, like when Dan Lanning's walking to go meet up with the coach and he's pushing that one guy in the chest and they're just hyped up. That was LeGarrette Blount.
Oh, really?
Yeah, LeGarrette Blount was on the sideline. I think TJ Ward was there. Just a bunch of old guys. I was like, I love that connection, man. That's so cool.
What was his falling out? Was that with Chip or what was the problem with the school?
With Blount?
Yeah.
I think it might have just been the whole handling of that situation, being the scapegoat, being suspended for the entire year and then brought back right in time when they might really need your depth, Like I think there was a couple of things. I think it was him and Chip mostly.
And Blount went on to have a productive NFL career.
He did. Won a Super Bowl with the Patriots, right? I think he did.
He did. And I'm trying to think. He might have been on that Eagle team, too, with Foles.
I think you're right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so he may have a couple of rings. Good for Blount. Yeah, I just love Blount because he had surprising speed for a guy of his size, but the physicality that he ran with, he would truck guys.
Yeah.
He was a nasty dude.
Yeah, you ever watched that Last Chance U?
Yes.
The first 2 years, that East Mississippi Community College, that's where LeGarrette Blount came from. He was there before Oregon.
All right, let's take a look at LeGarrette Blount. How many Super Bowls does he have? 3 Super Bowl championships.
Wow.
2
Not
with
bad.
New England, 1 with Philly?
I think 2 with New England, 1 with Philly. That's pretty good.
It is.
Pretty good. Good for him. That's awesome. He was traded to the Patriots for running back Jeff Demps at a 7th-round selection and 229th overall in the 2013 draft. Yep.
That was a pretty nice trade.
That's pretty awesome. Good for him. All right, we'll keep things rolling. We got some high fives to hand out. We'll do it next here on the Rip City Drive. Boy, props to Aaron Gordon for getting locked up by the Nuggets. Fat extension for Aaron Gordon. And now they're paying 4 guys big money. Jokic, Murray, Porter, and Gordon all getting paid. I'm just wondering how they're going to have enough money to surround the rest of the roster with, man. It's going to be tough.
I don't know how they're doing that because that's one more. I mean, 3 is usually that's the high number you can pay. But to pay 4 guys, I don't know, Chad. That's a tough one to figure out, isn't it?
4-year, $133 million contract.
And you got to pay him. He's essential. You got to keep him.
He's probably more important to the roster right now than Jamal Murray, and that sounds crazy, but he might be.
Yeah.
Because he provides that protection for Jokic, and he does all the dirty work that most guys don't want any part of.
Yeah.
And he's a great defender. He's a darn good player. He's turned out perfect for them. I think exceeded all expectations from when they went out and traded for him.
I think his development was a key to them winning that championship.
I just didn't know when they got him. I didn't realize he was as tough as he is. He's tough. He's one of the tougher guys in the NBA. I just respect his game a lot. I like the way he plays.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
Just sucks because he was linked to Portland for so long, and there was moving parts that the GM at the time wasn't willing to part with, so it never happened.
And we could make a long list of players linked to Portland that we would have loved to have had.
Yes, he's one of them.
And we got who was the stud that we got that played in Philadelphia? Oh, Covington. I love Covington, but he came a little bit late.
Yeah, he was my favorite player in the NBA, but you're right, came just a little too late.
All right. You got any high fives you want to hand out, Godfather?
Yeah, I got to give one to SEC guy. Just to hear that voice again and those rants about football in the SEC.
You like that, don't you?
Can't beat it. He's the
Aggies of Mississippi State. The same color. You both got a dog. Only one of them's a sissy dog. The other one's a tough dog. And Texas A&M got them cha-cha boys in the white shorts that try to tell people how to cheer and all that. They're real funny looking, and I feel like they're probably cha-cha sugar boys if you really want to know the truth. So, and also, just like in Mississippi, no one cares about Mississippi State. Guess what, Aggies? No one cares about you in your own state. And here's something else. Texas is basically Ole Miss. You got beautiful women. I put it on you there. That's pretty good right there. But on the other hand, you think better of yourself than everyone else does. You're not as good as you think. You keep going in there like you're hoity-toity, and then you get exposed, just like Lane Kiffin. You get exposed. Texas got exposed. Steve Sarkisian's just a Greek Lane Kiffin. That's all he is. Lane Kiffin with some stuffed Kalamata olives or whatever. That's all he is. And he got done up by Kirby. And Kirby got your Quinn kid also. How you going to be a quarterback in the SEC named Quinn? That's embarrassing. Georgia showed Texas exactly who they were. I thought it was funny. Y'all got put right in y'all's place. And guess what? If y'all get beat by Mississippi State Aggies, then it'll really be funny to me. But I can promise you, you're going to have your hands full with Vanderbilt. You're going to have your hands full with Vanderbilt. I know that for a fact because I watched my team get beat by Vanderbilt. And they got a Pavia at quarterback, and I never even heard of that.
Yeah, you're right. It's good to hear his voice.
Oh, man.
Well, I think it's only appropriate to give a high five out to Nolan Prinsky, who's going to be trying out for the Arizona State Sun Devils on Wednesday.
Yeah.
I thought it was tomorrow, but it got moved to Wednesday, and he's a junior at ASU. Kenny Dillingham put out the call to all kickers. He put out the video. They said, you're in, so he gets the tryout. And he's majoring in aviation. He wants to become a commercial pilot. And he was high level. He was a smart youngster, and I hope he does well. His dad kicked at Air Force, and he gets a chance to follow in his father's footsteps and live out a dream. And you can tell he really wants it. Like, this is important to him. He even sent me a text message that said, thank you for the time and allowing me to share my story.
Well, you know what?
Good work, Nolan.
We're all going to be rooting for him.
Gosh, I want it to happen. Their next game after the bye week this Saturday will be at Stillwater against Oklahoma State, my dad's alma mater.
Mm-hmm.
And there would be nothing that would bring more joy to my heart than to look up and see Nolan out there on the field kicking for ASU. That'd be pretty freaking awesome.
But you wouldn't be rooting against your dad's alma mater, would you?
Oh, yeah, I'm pulling for ASU in that game. Sorry, Dad. But my dad, he's become such a big fan of Cam Scattaboo that by the time that Saturday rolls around, because he's pretty bitter after what happened against BYU on Friday night, Oklahoma State scored a late touchdown with just over a minute on the clock. It looked like they had the game won, and then BYU converted some freaky 4th and 9, and before you know it, they had a pass play, about 5 missed tackles, touchdown, BYU wins and remains unbeaten. BYU is on track to get a bye and be in the playoff, if you can believe that.
Wow.
A team that was picked to finish with ASU last in the conference. And here they are winning all their football games.
I love Kalani Sitake.
He's a stud. He's doing a heck of a job.
He's doing so good.
And you wouldn't know it because he's not one of those guys looking for attention. He just goes out there and works his ass off.
Yeah. I fell in love with him, though, when he was DC at OSU and I was covering the team. Like, one conversation with him, and you're like, this guy knows ball.
Did you get a chance to talk to him, Godfather?
Yeah, he's a great recruiter. I'll tell you that. He can really recruit.
Like Lavelle Edwards, I think he's found a home there at BYU. He's going to be there for a long time.
It's funny, Chad. People don't leave there. I'm always kind of surprised by that. The climate's not great, nothing really, but people love it there.
Man, that stadium setting with the mountains in the background,
Yeah.
picturesque. All right, big thanks to Nolan Prinsky for joining the show. Good luck, my friend. Go get him. And to Sean Hyken, who is now our Trailblazer insider. It was great to have him in studio. Yes! Big thanks to Chris Burkhart and to all of you for listening. We will be back tomorrow with the Rip City Drive at 3. Justin Myers will have Rip City Mornings at 6 here on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. Have a good night, Godfather.
You too, Chad.